We're good. Oh, we're not good.
I mean, just start.
Good evening and welcome to the June 15th, 2026 Westminster City Council study session. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please remember that our meetings are governed by the rules of decorum posted inside chamber doors. We ask all attendees to maintain a respectful environment. No disruptions, threats, or audible expressions of support or opposition are permitted. Signs and placards are prohibited and all attendees must remain seated in designated areas. Council reports. Councilor Azadi.
Just wanted to give a shout out to staff for all the events last week, and my next HOA town hall is this Wednesday. So Tuesday I'll be at the community update, and then Wednesday is the Silo Townhomes HOA with Councilor Barajas. So looking forward to that.
Thank you. Councilor Hott? Nope. Hi, Councilor Barajas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few things. I went to the ribbon cutting for Grid City VR, which is a business in downtown Westminster. And while I love to highlight the cool business that they are, what I really want to highlight is how much joy and excitement there was there for the city. You know, the owners there were really excited to open up here in the city. They were mentioning how much they appreciated working with our chamber and our staff and the Downtown Business Association. So just a kind of kudos to city leadership for ensuring that there's such robust programming and attachment to that. So bravo to kind of staff for being there. It was a pretty packed event, but just it's really cool to see, you know, another business getting excited to open up in downtown. I was at the Government Affairs Committee for the Chamber of Commerce, and we got a chance to listen to Representative Goldstein and Senator Linzet were there, and they had mentioned how they're excited to work with the Chamber, but also with the city in terms of policy for next year. So I think it'd be a good idea for us as a body to kind of, you know, continue looking to the future and seeing if we can start advocating whenever is appropriate for some good policy with them. They were excited to work with the city specifically and the chamber. So just wanted to put that on our radar. At a couple of different events, I got a chance to meet with just randomly members of the Water Task Force, and they were mentioning how great a lot of the education they've been doing so far, and you know, I'm sure they've offered this feedback, but looking for ways to kind of share some of that educational opportunities with just residents across the city. You know, I'm a big fan of the Civic Academy and other opportunities for education, but, you know, they said it's been a really elevated program that they've been appreciating. One note of concern, they really enjoyed the data. This is from the residents on the task force that I've spoken to, so I guess, you know, and also just gratitude to the counselors, you know, Councilor Ireland and Councilor Azadi for kind of leading the charge with that. They enjoyed getting to dig into the data, and there is concern that they want to be able to like actually dig in more to the data. They wanted to make sure that that's kind of like a centerpiece and not just another thing to do. So I wanted to kind of highlight that in this update. And then Councilor Johnson and I had a chance to celebrate the retirement of Battalion Chief Barney, which was really great. It was the first time I'd seen a last call, I think is what they call it. And I'll talk more about some of the because I want to talk about it on the diocese next week, but I just wanted to mention that happened this past week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Ireland.
So I was sick quite a while, but I did go to I finally got well, so I went to some things. I want to give a shout out to Aaron Rez for doing the procurement meeting. I do have some follow-up questions from that. There was 4 of us that attended, so we really didn't dive into what we thought. Anyway, I did learn that our code says we are a decentralized procurement, even though we have someone to oversee it. So I want to talk about maybe centralizing it since we have someone to oversee our procurement. I learned that each manager and department can spend up to $175,000. I don't know if that's per year, per contract. I would like that answer. I would learn that it'd probably be better for the reports that I requested if it was centralized, because if we have all these departments, it'll be more difficult to get the numbers. So I want to have a discussion on that. I went to the ribbon cutting for the Cavender's Boot City. Beautiful store, huge. I was amazed how big it was, and great store. I just wish my feet would fit into boots because I would have bought a pair. But great store, check it out. It's right next to Trader Joe's. We got an email from a Cyrus Clemenson at Harmony Park. And so I went out and visited him with about the bike lanes there. And I don't know who made that decision and if the people in that community had any input, but it kind of hurts their property values when they can't even park in front of their house now. And I would like to see us be able to share the bike lanes for parking too. He says a bike comes by maybe once every 3 days. I don't know how that decision was made and why they're told to park at the side streets in front of neighbors' houses. That's not creating community goodwill, let's just say. They're getting mad at each other for parking in front of each other's houses. And just common sense says that we should be able to share that for parking. There's not that much bike traffic in there. The bike traffic, once it's out of there, there's no bike lanes out of that neighborhood onto the major roads. So I don't know why that neighborhood was just picked to have bike lanes. And there is center places where you can put parking, but it costs more than just changing out signage to use it for either or. I also met with Cheyenne Glass, who reached out to me, who lives in Amherst. They just poured sidewalks and along their cul-de-sac. Her sidewalk is 5 inches taller than her driveway. This is not good for people with disabilities. It's an accident waiting to happen. And she's told she needs to replace her driveway for $15,000. That is not a good answer for this woman. They should have made a driveway instead of a sidewalk down from her driveway, and then they just told her to live with it. Not okay. And I'll give you her information, because that's what she was told. She would just have to live with it or replace it, but it's a safety issue. 5 inches, I have pictures of it. I even went and looked at it, so a concern. And I don't know how many more driveways we're doing in there, but maybe they can fix it while they're doing other work in there. I'm guessing they're not the only street, hopefully. Anyway, that's all I have. Anyway, those are the things I found out this week.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I continue to fulfill my duties as the liaison to the Special Permanent Licensing Board, which has been a great experience, and they're doing really good work. And nothing exciting in the last couple of weeks, but continue to appreciate everyone's service on that board, because it's not always the most exciting, but it is incredibly important. And they are all experts that ask really good questions and really make the city better because of their service. And so I wanted to highlight their service. I went and attended with the mayor, the Jefferson County commissioners update, where we learned a lot about water usage from our neighboring cities, and it sounds like a couple of them have done a really good job reducing their city's water use, which is encouraging to hear and also encouraging to see what our city has done on that front. I attended a town hall with Une and some residents of the Cottonwood facility here in Westminster to learn about continued improvements to our tenants' quality of living and what we can do to ensure that they have habitable spaces. And they're encouraged to see what we can bring forward and excited with a certain level of urgency for our improvements to our rental inspection program, because they have a lot of issues that they think can be addressed by that program. That program's expansion. I joined Councilor Barajas at Battalion Chief Vardy's retirement, and it was great to see all the community support. I asked who's putting out fires, because there were a lot of firefighters there, but I was told we had people for that. But in addition to that, there were a lot of members of the community that showed up to support the battalion chief, and so I think it really highlights the way our department interacts with the community and makes a positive difference, not just among the firefighters, but among the residents, and so that was really good to see. And then I went to 2 openings with with the mayor and Councilor Ireland at Calavanders, which was great, and I am going to get a new pair of boots there. And the District Poor and Provisions, which is on 104th, and it's a really beautiful location, is where Lodo's used to be, and really excited to have a business back there in the city, because I know a lot of residents that live at that intersection valued that as a community space, and it is now back open as a community space, so it was great to see it open.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
So I missed the grand opening, but I did go yesterday to District Port and Provisions.
Yeah.
And they actually have mocktails that you can drink.
Good ones.
Yeah, I was surprised. So that was kind of cool. And then I also was contacted by folks from Harmony Park regarding the bike lane. And I live in that neighborhood and I'm well aware of when the bike lanes were put in. So I did send an email over to City Manager Andrews and the team so that, they could take a look at that. So I know it'll be more conversation, I suppose. Obviously, I know staff has worked to try and get bike lanes in, and we'll just see how. I understand the frustrations that
They could share, that'd be great.
those residents have, yeah. Okay, so then I have just one thing that was interesting. I attended the Front Range Passenger Rail Board Planning Committee, and there was they're looking at, I think I mentioned this before, that they are looking at special event stops potentially at incorporating those into the line, and one of them being the Burnham Yards, which would be where I guess the new football stadium would be. Sorry, if you can really tell, I do not follow football. I know it's the Broncos. That's all I have for you. And then potentially for the new Denver women's soccer team, which I think is at Broadway. I forget the location that they've picked, but they're looking at those, so that's interesting. And I wouldn't say that's ingrained in the project yet, but they were also looking at potentially another stop in Colorado Springs. And I don't know if any of you hang out in Colorado Springs. It's a huge, sprawling city, and so they were potentially looking at, because the one that would be currently located in Colorado Springs is in the downtown location, which is on the south end of the city, and a lot of the growth, particularly employment growth, has been happening up at the north end. So that was, more to come on that, but I thought I'd just report in on that. With Front Range Passenger Rail, I did get an ask from not the board itself, but people who are working to just support the district overall for a letter of support from council, and which is different than the resolution that we did. This would be more of a written letter of support that we would sign and send over to the district itself, and that would just be used as they need. If you are interested, I can send that around.
To that point, I would like to know how much the tax increase is going to be on this.
I will add that in the
sign up for another
email.
tax increase. The people are taxed and taxed.
I will see if they've come yet with, I don't think they've.
They said they might not, so
Down.
we'll see.
Yeah. So if I have it, I will send that along, but what I'll do is I'll send you all an email, and if you could, I guess, so that so this is just a letter of support, so I just want to make sure I'm not creating, can I have people?
Yeah, I think it's
Sorry,
fine to
just-
share a draft letter if that's the plan.
Okay. All right. Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Don't put me on it unless they tell me what the taxes,
Okay.
if there's going to be taxes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Got it.
Yes.
Can I ask for clarification on special event? So
Yeah.
from your knowledge,
Yeah.
does that mean like they will just create a station for these events and then, or in your experience with transit, or does it just mean increased service around events?
So it would still likely need some level of station facility and bare bones kind of facility, but that it would just go for events. But there's right now it's so fuzzy in terms of defining, well, how many events and how's that paid for. There's excitement to do it, but I think there's several of us on the board that are kind of like, well, what's the cost for that? Who's paying for it, and like, is it getting us the right bang for the buck? So.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so several similar events that I attended. I just thank you to staff and to Aaron Raz for that work session on procurement. That was extremely helpful, I think, for many of us. And I'd love to hear more about Councilor Ireland's question about centralizing it, but I guess I kind of thought we already were, so maybe a follow-up question on that. But I just want to say I'm really grateful that our city is moving in a direction that is so accountable with our contracting, that we have a procurement system, and that is ahead of the curve. So thank you for that. Community update, I just want to make sure to remind folks, which I'm sure that our city manager Andrews is about to do, but that is tomorrow at Westie Swim and Fitness on 76th Avenue. And I want to highlight that for folks listening because it's covering all sorts of updates on our roadway infrastructure. And there's a lot happening around the city with our roads because we're putting those 3H dollars into action. So if you want your questions answered, please come by tomorrow because that's where we can do that for you in one place. I do want to just mention a couple outreach items from folks that had questions for me this week. There was someone who reached out about idling, and I don't think I've passed that on yet, but they wanted to know if the city would put in or enact an idling ordinance because she had seen cars idling for over 30 seconds. I don't know if that's something that we can even enforce, but I want to make sure I do my job by bringing it to the council and, making sure that if there is support for that, we can talk about it. I know that it's beneficial to be environmentally friendly, but also, how do you go around? So anyway.
Remind people, like.
A friendly tap on the window, say please.
Reminder.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. And then I also want to bring up, we've had several emails this week around, we are in progress of working on a noise ordinance. And we've had several emails in particular about the BNSF railway train. And I just want to remind folks that while we will do everything we can, and we have done over the last several years, everything we can with our local airport at RMMA, the airport and the trains are under federal authority. So those are not under the city of Westminster's jurisdiction. It is very difficult for us we can't tell them technically anything one way or another, but it's really difficult, honestly, to even have clear lines of communication to get those messages across. So we will do everything we can, but we really don't have authority to do much about that. Now, when it comes to quiet zones, yes, those are in progress and we are working through those. And I think that those are a priority for staff. And so maybe we can get an update on those. But just reminding folks, trains and airports, they came before cities did, right? So anyway, I do want to give a shout out to our neighboring mayor, Lauren Simpson. She held an event here in Westminster yesterday at our local Cottonwood Lodge. And it was for Feline Fix, which is a local cat rescue. And it was an incredible event. So I just want to give them a shout out because there was a really great turnout. Our Commissioner Emma Pinter was there. Of course, Lauren Simpson was there. We also had Mayor Guyleen Castriata was there. We had incredible turnout of local officials. It was a lot of fun. So I just want to say, if you want to look into fostering, they were advertising finding foster homes for kittens. Because we had a warm winter, there's a lot of kittens. So just want to give them a shout out to Feline Fix if you can help them. And I also attended the grand opening of Cavender's Boot City, which is really exciting. Beautiful store. I suggest you go down there. Really fancy hats, really fancy boots, great stuff. And I did not make it yet over to District Poor and Provisions. So if you're listening, I promise I'll make it over there soon. And yes, attended the Jeffco Quarterly Breakfast. We mostly talked about water. We did not. I brought up this question there, and I'd love to bring it up lightly here as well, which is we talked a lot about water levels, which was surface level water levels, which of course are a little bit lower this year because of our drought. But when I asked about the water table, nobody had even thought to look at that. And so I don't know if that's something we measure locally. It sounds like it's not something that we're looking at as a county yet, at least. So I don't know if that's something that Westminster looks at, but I'd love to know, what that looks like because the two work together. Even if we think they don't, they really do. So And then I too attended a town hall with Une and Greystar looking at rental inspection standards. That conversation has been ongoing now, I think, for several months. And I know that they're continuing to make their way through the city and through each of our councilors in turn. There's some hard conversations being had. I'm really hopeful, and I think that both Une and Greystar, our partners, are also very hopeful that our rental inspection program will help be the solution to some of the questions that are rising. But I just want residents to know that your safety and your health and your well-being are an absolute top priority for me and many of us on council. And we will continue to do everything we can to make sure that you have what you need to be safe in our city. And I'm really grateful to this organization, to Greystar, that, there's continue to work with us on this. So it's an ongoing conversation. With that, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I have a brief report this evening. I can have the next slide, Evan.
Can we turn the
TV's out again.
Oop. Watch your heads, pull those out. Our automated TV turning is underway. All right, by way of city update, another step forward for Historic Westminster. So starting with just a quick recap. In the past 12 months, the city's been working closely with property owners to beautify the 72nd Avenue corridor, and that includes the demolition of several nuisance properties. And staff were surprised when I asked the Midland building to be put in parentheses with an exclamation mark. So the Midland building, of course, has been removed, and we've also been working with Excel and undergrounding the power lines, which has been something that community has been asking for decades and decades. So happy to report on that. This slide is showing you a before and after picture of a real stinker, and that is that the structure that formed the former Stinker gas station at 3485 West 72nd has now been demolished and removed, and that's the site afterwards. And I'm pleased to report that staff had a large hand in that, working with the property owner, and continues to work with the property owner to support the revitalization of Historic Westminster. So we are really making some progress in Historic Westminster with property owners, with derelict buildings, and that remains a strong focus for us at the staff level to work with the property owners to have them meet the expectations of the community. Next slide, please. The mayor, thank you, gave a great introduction for tomorrow night, and I do want to really push this one. This is an information and action-packed night tomorrow night, paving the way forward, improving the roads for our community. This is a monthly city update. We do have a large portion of city council joining for this update. It's so important to the community, so please do join us if you can Tuesday night tomorrow from 5:30 to 6:30 at the Swim and Fitness Center, which is at 3290 West 76th Avenue. So these meetings are a great opportunity. We'll share out a lot of exciting information around our roadways, and then have a discussion facilitated by our city council with the community around next steps and answering any questions that they may have around what's happening with Westminster's streets. Next slide, please. For tonight's agenda, it's a really important night. First item up is the 2027 budget, and this is finalizing tasks and outcomes and reviewing capital projects. So tonight is actually a lot about the 2026 budget and looking at room in our current CIP or capital improvement program for 2026 to start to implement some of City Council's priorities for 2026 that are driving from your tasks and outcomes. So this is a big night in terms of getting done what you want to get done this year. And then it is an important step as we also work toward building the 2027 budget. So we're looking forward to that session tonight. Next up will be consideration of possible process options for filling vacancies on City Council. So this is report back and discussion tonight based on council direction, and along those lines, consideration of adding a ward system question to a future ballot. That's also a direction resolution of City Council to discuss that tonight. And then finally, a verbal request for direction on Jefferson County's letter regarding CDBG, in other words, Community Development Block Grant Funds, and Jefferson County's Urban County Program. This is actually something that comes to us annually, but because it's unique enough and hitting a target area for City Council, we felt best to have a public discussion direction tonight, and then that will get everything out in the open around what this program is and isn't and what this means to Westminster. And then finally, an executive session. This is a very exciting one, also meeting Council's vision, discussing a proposed economic development agreement involving a new potential grocery store in Westminster. Next slide, please. Up this week, tomorrow night, as I've mentioned and the mayor mentioned, monthly community update with mayor, city council, and the city manager. So again, that's 5:30 at Swim and Fitness at the Swim and Fitness Center. On Wednesday, June 17th, is a continuation of the Downtown Plaza Summer Concert Series. So that's right at the heart of downtown at the Central Plaza off 89th Avenue. That will run from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And then also Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. is the special permit and licensing board meeting with Councillor Johnson attending, and that's right here in council chambers. On Thursday, June 18th is the Butterfly Pride Day event, and that's an adult-focused event at the Butterfly Pavilion, and that runs from 6 to 9 p.m. And then finally, Friday, June 19th, city administrative offices are closed to recognize Friday, June 19th as Juneteenth. That image is actually provided by the state of Colorado. That's statewide imagery for this year's Juneteenth celebration. Next slide, please. Up this week, also on Saturday, our professionals in our fire department are hosting another car seat clinic. So learn how to get your car seat professionally installed, or have the current one you have checked to make sure it's installed correctly. And that will be done free of charge by our professionals at Fire Station number 2, running from 8:30 to noon. And that is by appointment only, so please do call ahead 303-658-4500. Another one on Saturday might be of interest to a number of folks, McKay Lake Open House. So that will run from 10 to 11 a.m. right at McKay Lake. Oops, if we could go back on that slide. That was an interesting sound. Give me a second.
Speaking of trains.
Speaking of train whistles, that phone wasn't in the quiet zone. So McKay Lake Open House. So this is the grand opening of the McKay Lake improvements, and they're pretty cool if you haven't checked them out yet. It's a ribbon cutting on Saturday and a walking tour. So this is a great opportunity. Even if you don't know anything about McKay Lake, or you do, please try and drop by from 10 to 11 right at McKay Lake on Saturday. And then also on Saturday, Summer Sounds, live music at Aerostat Park. That's at our brand new park in downtown Westminster on Central Avenue. And that will run from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And then finally at on Sunday, June 21st, also at Aerostat Park, is a continuation of the Aerostat Park Summer Yoga Series, and that will run from 9 until 10 a.m. Next slide, please. Right, next meeting, I have 2 slides. I will have in a packet for you in public record an update on Fire Station 8, and that's on our construction manager and our general contractor contracts. And that's information only, but very happy to answer any questions once I get that information to you. On consent that night will be 6 items, and then under new business, first reading of Councilor's Bill 20, and that's a regulatory ordinance for unlawful noise, also called noise ordinance. And then first reading of Councilor's Bill 21, and that's approval of a development purchase and sale agreement with Greystar Corporation for Block D5 in downtown Westminster, and that's the project that's come before council on 92nd Avenue, right there at 92nd and the 36 overpass. Next slide, please. Second slide on next week, we do have a Westminster Economic Development Authority meeting. 2 items of new business there. Resolution 251, approving an agreement for development of the Holly Park property with Pumpkin Ridge Holdings. So Holly Park property is right on Federal Boulevard, and that has been a long-standing desire of the city and the community to get that property developed for the appropriate housing, and that will be coming forward. Next up will be Resolution 252, approving a proposed proposed development purchase and sale agreement with Greystar for Block D5 in downtown Westminster. So that's the companion action with the City Council action that night. In post-meeting study session that night, we have a proposed councillor's bill to amend the Westminster Municipal Code regarding the keeping of chickens, otherwise known as the chicken ordinance. And then executive session that night will be to discuss the strategy and progress on a proposed economic development agreement involving a targeted industry prospect. So more to come on that. Next slide, please. Finally, and as always, please do try and use Access Westminster to get to us quickly on things that need attention in your neighborhood or across the city. And that's an app, the Access Westminster app, or it's westminsterco.gov, Access Westminster. Our phone number, as always, for customer service, 303-658-2400. Visit our website, westminsterco.gov, and our transparency portal. And we're working on more upgrades for our transparency portal. So please get onto that from our main page if you're wanting to know where every dollar of the city is being spent. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Any questions regarding the report? Councillor Brajas?
Just a quick note on the community updates. If we could, I know that we kind of have a tentative date for the next one, but I think it'd be really helpful to be able to land a location and potentially a topic. It's gonna be a big ask for the next one. Obviously that's in less than 24 hours, but if we could, if we need to have more discussions as a council to kind of help land on topic ideas and location preferences, but I think it'd be helpful if at the end of the updates, we can say, join us next time, next month, this date, this time, location, just to kind of help. It seems like there's a decent amount of people who like to come to each one of them, and I'm appreciative of, if they're listening, or, I'm just appreciative of their attendance. But I think it'd be helpful for them, just if they do want to kind of keep that touch point. So that would just a preference or a request for them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, I'm mostly just excited about McKay Lake because was constantly going around that thing. Just kind of curious, I did see a lot of activity around the little parking area. Did we expand parking there or make it smaller? I'm looking at Eric.
Eric, would you come and join us just for a moment? Director of Parks, Recreation, and Libraries is here this evening to answer that question, Mayor Pro Tem.
I knew you were going to ask it.
He's ready.
Very exciting, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor, City Council, Eric Otzelberger, Parks, Recreation, Libraries Director. So appreciate everyone's patience. As folks familiar with the site know, there was some wetland permitting challenges that we overcame. So the project took a little longer. However, yes, additional parking, permeable pavers, so an environmentally friendly treatment, and everything is in good shape. So the pavilions, restroom area, the boardwalks, the walking tours, highly encourage you to take those. The boardwalks through there, impressive. It's really a game changer with a true gem open space property, and kind of opens up the access around the lake. And with that additional parking, because unless you were living in proximity there, this kind of makes it more accessible with that added parking and all the improvements there on that north side.
That's exciting. I didn't realize we were adding boardwalks to that as well.
Yeah, and a tremendous amount of using natural channels to redirect the water through there. So it's really an impressive project.
Thank you. You guys should go check it out.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll echo. Thank you, Councilor Barajas. That had been an ask of mine at the end of our last community update, was could I announce in closing where the next one was, and we didn't have that, but it would be really wonderful if we could land that. Really help the turnout as much as we can. With that brings us to this evening's presentations. City Manager, would you like to introduce the first presentation?
Mayor, thank you. Item 4A up next is the 2027 budget. That's finalizing tasks and outcomes and reviewing capital projects. So the team will, Chris Lindsay and Aaron Ferrier will be coming up to the table. I would like to provide a brief introduction for tonight and the work done in service of your direction and then next steps. So tonight is really a two-part evening with respect to this topic. The first up is reviewing what should hope to be the final tasks and outcomes list. So this, you will recall, was brought forward 2 weeks ago. It wasn't in a shape that you were able to review with us in public meeting. So you did provide, each of you provided with clarifications and edits to the document. That is now before you tonight. So it does amalgamate all of your inputs and edits. And I think for the most part, those all align really well. There probably are 2 or 3 that staff would like to seek your direction on to make sure if the comments either overlapped or weren't quite clear between 2 different sets of comments. And so that's the goal for the tasks and outcomes list tonight. And our hope is that we can button that up tonight, and then that becomes our direction moving forward, that we have your tasks and outcomes finalized and we're now acting on them. That's a great segue into the second part of this item, which is to do a preliminary review with you of all of the city's outstanding capital projects. So these are capital projects that have been previously approved, some of them dating back to the early 2000s with unexpended capital against them. And what the leadership team has done, they really buckled down last week to get this ready for you tonight. They've gone through all of those capital projects and they've what I call highlighted 16 of that long list of capital that you could consider as a potential funding source for the tasks and outcomes that you would like to see done in 2006. So this isn't 2027's budget. This is this current budget. The dollars advanced for your consideration are the result of some very frugal management on the part of our project managers and directors. For example, there are 2 fire department projects which have been or are about to be delivered under budget. And what that means is that capital can now be put to use, should you so direct, for something that you wish it to go toward. So that's frugal management and tight project management by our team. There's another category of highlights in this document that are projects that are just not going to track for full expenditure by the end of the year. And this is more typical. So this is where we have a capital project. The capital project in its entirety will get approved in that year's CIP, but we don't often have a project that starts in January 1st and ends in December 31st. And so we've also identified projects in that category where we could use the remaining capital that we know we're not going to expend this year and then have that capital replaced in next year's budget. So the project will still get done. In those cases, it just wouldn't be, we don't sit on that cash for a year that's unspent. So that could be also made available. And there's 1, maybe 2 items in here that would actually be deferring an expense. We have some PRNL trailers that we are advancing that we might consider 3 of those not be replaced this year. That would create some room in this year's capital budget. And then we'd pick those up in a future budget cycle to replace those. And in the meantime, the staff will of course keep them in great working order and make sure that they're functional for their purpose. So those are kind of the 3 categories of those 16 highlights in the document. What I want to say is that none of those projects in the highlighted zone will reflect any negative impact on services, personnel, or our community. Those will be things that we absorb through tight cash flow management and putting the money that we already have to use now rather than sitting on it for upwards of a year in the case of some of those projects I highlighted. So that the goal in this project by reviewing this is to make sure that council's comfortable with those in the list. I've included, the team's included all capital that's unexpended. So that full list is there, so you can go through that either tonight or afterwards. That list will remain very solid as we move forward, so that those projects are always going to be reviewable by you. You can look at those that list at any time and see the projects that are on there. If you have any questions about the highlighted ones or the ones that we haven't highlighted, that's what we're here to hopefully help with. And then finally, We know what your tasks and outcomes are as they're shaping up. So we have identified 4 of those that should you give us the direction tonight, that we can go ahead and come back at a future council meeting very soon with an appropriation from these capital funds to get those things done. Down payment assistance program, child care tax exemption, our communications 360 program. Those are the things that we could move quickly on this year with the funds at hand. And then as your city manager, I will put a couple things in the hopper for you that aren't my idea, they're your ideas, and one of those would be in keeping with the transparency and the questions around our procurement and our contracts, that we could take $60,000 from this $5.5 million highlighted and open up a new feature of OpenGov and put every single one of our contracts out in the public realm for review at any time, at every time, and at any time. And so that would really amplify our transparency around our contracting and procurement process. And I would actually recommend we take that step and get that out in the community and for you before we take any next steps on my procurement limits. So that was the thinking there. And then also, should council give direction on first reading in the noise ordinance, our police chief and I have worked on this, and we would actually also recommend at the same time a higher level of police enforcement should there now be a noise ordinance in place around noise in the community. And I've got an amount of money here, no new staff, no new equipment in that sense necessarily. We'll look at that, but mostly no new staff, that this would be done through overtime assignments for our police personnel. And that would be a voluntary overtime, wouldn't be required. But there would be a way for us to address noise from these funds in the community at a time when we don't have really high level of policing out there. It's typically the off hours of the night when our patrols are at that nighttime level. So that would be a recommendation also that I would advance tonight to be effective with our, if you so direct the noise ordinance to go into effect. So I turn it over to the team. They're now going to seek clarification on the tasks and outcomes, and then we'll shift into that discussion of capital and how to free that up for task and outcomes execution.
Thank you. Thank you. Erin Ferreter, Policy and Budget Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Going to pass out copies of the attachments with all of City Council's feedback. Jody kicked us off, so we're gonna jump right in. We're gonna do exactly as City Manager laid out, finalizing and agreeing on the strategic plan outcomes and tasks for implementation in 2026 and 2027, conducting a preliminary review of active capital improvement projects and identifying any capital projects for potential expenditure reductions. So let's begin with the strategic outcomes and tasks. Thank you. So at the May 9th budget workshop, City Council reviewed and finalized the strategic plan outcomes and tasks, demonstrating strong collaboration and shared agreement and providing the framework for implementing the strategic plan. Staff developed a draft implementation strategies for each prioritized outcome and task, which City Council has preliminary reviewed. Tonight, we want to review City Council's feedback and confirm alignment on these strategies. We'll review all the prioritized outcomes and tasks. Most require no further clarification unless City Council has questions. As City Manager indicated, there are several items we need additional clarification on. So you'll notice, unfortunately, my staple were on the other side of the pond tonight. Our staple is on the right side instead of the left, so bear with me as we'll flip to the right instead of the left. So starting with item 1.1.111, staff was comfortable and had no further questions or clarifications regarding this item. Sorry, I need to get my unstapled version. Stapled rattles me. So moving on to 1.4, 1.43. Staff had some questions and was looking for some clarifications regarding the comments provided by City Council. specifically how the down payment program, assistance program is funded, the partnerships. So just want to make sure that we're on the same page, understanding the expectations.
Could you, I'm thinking if I have questions, others may as well. Could you be more specific as to what exactly needs clarification?
So I wasn't sure, or staff wasn't sure. There's Councilor Azadi added city funded and some more specific questions about the outcome and task being city funded versus it being a combination of the two. We just wanted to make sure what that balance needs to look like with partnerships starting it right now in 2026 and how that should shape.
So what I wrote there is it's a city-funded program first, meaning we don't wait, because the original wording was we're going to apply for grants, and that could take, that may never happen. So this one is being clearer that it's what the ask is a city-funded program, as well as supplemental grants, so doing that work to figure out if there's additional funding, but the first priority is city funded.
Okay, Mayor Bertem.
I have a lot of questions about this because just from administering a homeownership for sale project and how difficult it's been to find qualified owners at a certain AMI level for even the affordable products that we have. It's been very challenging, and the same thing goes with other communities that I've spoken with. So I think this needs more fleshing out in terms of what AMI levels are we targeting? Is this a best practice to have a city-run down payment program, or is it better to be putting money into, like, if we're talking about CHAFA potentially administering, do we know if they would? I feel like there are a lot of questions about how this would actually be implemented, and who is it actually targeting? What is our understanding of who our target audience is? Are they there? Or do we have the housing stock to support this? Do we know if, there are a lot of questions I have, because it's not just about having funds, it's also about having the credit score and the income levels, and whether you allow people to have co-signers. There's a lot of detail, and I would say it will be a challenge for staff to be able to get this up and running without like a bunch of holes in it, in just a few short months. And so I understand the desire, because I think all of us want to see ownership, improving in the city. So I just want to give staff enough time to like get all the questions and really just, is this the best bang for our buck? Like if we're putting in money, like I'm cool with putting money towards this, but is this, is it actually going to improve the conditions, or should we do a project that is producing affordable, ownership development? Is that where $2.5 million should go versus this? I don't know. Those are the things that I would hope staff can respond with, and identifying, how many people do we plan to be helping with this? What's the return? It's going to be, I think, if we give it all out, $2.5 million, and we're asking for forgivable loans that are repaid at sale or refinance, then if it's forgivable, then I guess it wouldn't be repaid, but I'm just reading. So there are a lot of questions with this. So if we get it to be repaid at sale or refinance, there's just like this expectation that are we continuing to fund this annually at $2.5 million? Like, what is that? What's the ongoing cost of this?
So if I could just respond quickly. Luckily, a lot of these questions have been answered and looked into by Director Kimball, who can speak to this. The revolvable, she can explain what that means. it's actually a much more sustainable way for us to implement this program. Lots of other cities have done this in the country, but in this state, a couple of cities have done this. And it's not us doing the administration, it's us providing the funding. We're going to be partnering with a certain organization who's the only sole provider that does this in the state. And I think Director Kimball can explain more.
Thank you.
Okay, sure, great, thank you. And staff is working on a framework right now with CHAC, Colorado Housing Affordability Council. They've been around for, gosh, I think since the 60s, formed out of Denver Housing. They work with many cities throughout the state of Colorado. So that is the entity that Councilor Hazadi referred to. Working currently on an MOU that we hope to bring back to you as soon as possible. But staff has already, Vivi Del Pizzo is here, and she has been working feverishly on getting this done as quickly as possible so we can have a quality framework. She also has experience working with CHAC and running a similar program in Broomfield and standing that up from nothing. So really bootstrapping it and putting it together and funding with some city money, as well as Broomfield to get Prop 123 funds. But lots of questions, lots of really good questions, of course. So we're happy to answer any of that and come back. But we feel we've got a good potential partner there, and we've got some momentum going. So we're happy to answer any of those other questions that you might have. But I just wanted to clarify, the status of it. It wouldn't be the city running, managing, monitoring compliance of the program. We definitely would need to contract. In fact, it would be very difficult and costly and all the things FTEs needed if we were going to do it on our own. So I just want to be really clear that we don't want to do that. We want to leverage the expertise of an entity and not a 501c3 nonprofit that's been doing it for, gosh, over 50 years. Yeah.
To clarify before I hand it over to Mayor Pro Tem, are we saying that that organization, they set up the answers to the individual questions that Mayor Pro Tem just asked around AMI, et cetera? Is there a standard?
Mayor, thank you for the question. We have the ability, because if it's city money, you can do anything, everything that this body wants to do. We certainly have staff recommendations. So we would be happy to bring that forward to you. It's a lot less restrictive, of course, using city funds than the Prop 123 funds. We've gotten comments from CHAC that Prop 123 has been very restrictive. It's been very hard to find people that qualify for that just because of the various requirements that they have in there. We could set up and learn from those experiences that CHAC has had to make it easier and more accessible to more people. But as I said, they would be our servicer, if you will, for all of those. And staff would propose that it would be, Mayor Pro Tem, as you stated, refundable back into the pool upon sale. And yeah, so it would take a while, but in theory, it's self-replenishing. So upon sale, it's going back, and then you're allowed to have someone else come into the program.
I guess as you're fleshing this out more, it would be helpful to know. I mean, eventually it'll be self-replenishing, but like, what does it look like for those first 5-10 years in terms of investment from the city? I'd be curious to know, because I know DOLA has been kind of reevaluating some of their AMI levels, and so if Prop 123 constraints are raised from 100% AMI to 120% AMI, does that open up more people that are, so yeah, because I'd still love to use other people's money in addition to ours. So, and just finally, I'd just love some stats around like how many people of what income.
How much do they give them? That's another thing.
Yeah, just all the stats around it.
And how much it costs for this contract with this?
So I'll say, just hang out just another moment here while we go around for further questions if we can. So Councilor Ireland, I know you have a follow-up.
How much is our contract with them to facilitate this?
Generally, it's structured as they would, almost like a bank, they would take a percentage instead of a flat fee. They do have two options. They have worked with basically a retainer, if you will, to manage all of that and perform all compliance and closeouts of loans and be your loan servicer. we think it'd be more cost-effective to do it on a per transaction basis and let them take a percentage of that as their administrative fee. But the early conversations we've been having with them, it's all seemed very reasonable and within, standards that we've seen for nonprofits who would be providing this type of administrative service.
Any other questions?
Oh, I thought she had great questions, Councilor Namilla, so if she gets hers answered, that'll help me too.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Barajas?
This question is for policy and budget. Is this the feedback that, like, what we're talking about, is this helpful to, I imagine a lot of these questions are what we'll be asking, like, during the session that we talk about this. I know you're looking for clarity and feedback. Are we hitting that in this discussion, or are you looking for different kind of feedback? Feedback on the feedback, I guess.
The feedback that we're receiving at this point in time is what we're looking for. Okay. This guides our next steps. So if what we're hearing is we need to flush out some additional details or have an additional conversation or study session prior to moving into one thing versus another, that's the direction. Or if this is very specific and we do use a green pen versus a blue pen. Okay. So this direction is helpful for us to identify next steps so we can clearly meet expectations and make sure that we're aligned.
Great.
May I add also, so what Councilor Azadi clarified, that was our primary clarification point, was that it would be seeded with the city funds, and then we would pursue grant funding and stocking up at the same time, or recharging at the same time. We will, when we come back, we would address Mayor Pro Tem's questions, right, through CHAC and what the different setup models would be. At that point, Council would then direct the design of the program, well, the go forward, and then the design of the program at that point.
Okay.
What we need to know tonight is that we have the concept landed correctly, and I think Councilor Azadi's provided that that clarification. If all of Council is good with that, then we would move on, bring it back to you to answer those questions, and then sketch out what the funding.
The question is, where are the funds coming from in the city? What are we taking it away from?
So thank you, Councilor, for that question. So that's the second part of this item, which is the capital list that I described, right? So they'll come from cost savings in the case of the capital budgets being delivered under budget. Other ones where we would be, if we needed to in this one, we may not. We may have enough to start this program with cost savings. So that's a one-time cost savings in a one-time seed approach for this fund that would then be regenerative through grants, and then ultimately they're actually not forgivable loans. They're repaid at time of sale to the fund. So the fund does recharge. Mayor Pro Tem is correct that it takes however long someone would hold that property to sell it. That's when the fund would get recharged with that particular down payment. So the city puts up the start money and ideally then starts to build it through grants and recharging of those through the sale process. But we would do all of that analysis before you would be asked to take any, before you'd be asked to green light the program. But that would be the next step. We'd come back to you with a designed program for you to look at that answers your questions, and then you would decide.
Yeah, and point of order, thanks.
With that, yes, thank you, Councilor. I know you're trying to clarify. Yeah. Just remind us all right here. Sorry, I'm so tired, I can't think. That we are trying to give direction, and although we have been pretty task-oriented in this, remind us all that staff are going to go do that homework like they just said. They'll bring it back, and at that time, if things need to be tweaked or adjusted to make it work. This is not directive. It is not prescriptive. This is just what are the goals, and we're doing the best we can to align those goals. But Councilor Barajas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for that clarification. And City Manager, just to kind of address that question kind of overall, right now the direction, like, I imagine you're asking us, like, is this clear? Can we move forward, or should we move forward with this, in this way? And if the funding isn't coming from these cost savings, you would let us know, right? So like we don't have to say like, well, where's the funding for this one coming? Where's the funding for, like, it's all like, right now we have these, and bravo to staff. I don't know if we've said that out loud yet, but bravo to staff for really rolling up the sleeves and digging in. Thank you, policy and budget team for directing that, but also everyone kind of sitting in the audience right now who did that work. So thank you for that. But just to clarify, I imagine that right now you're not asking us to like go in debt or to like hit negative reserve. Like we have these numbers that were on our agenda. This is where you're asking for direction right now on how to spend those savings, and it isn't clarifying this right now. Like, that's what we're doing.
If we identify those savings,
yep.
which is our next conversation. So for now, let's just pinpoint whether or not this is a priority for us.
Okay, thanks.
And
Yeah, this works.
yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
The reason I was asking the questions is I'm trying to distinguish of all of these things, is this the right answer for the goal we have? And I understand staff is being very responsive to the requests that have come in, but I'm also trying to elicit from staff, is this the best bang for our buck? With respect to, like, this is our proposal coming in, but would you have done something different this takes $2.5 million, do we get a better outcome if we do something different? That's the kind of, I just don't want to, with any of these, I just want staff's expertise and to weigh in. And that's why I'm asking, because I just want to, no, I appreciate staff's been very responsive, and they have been tap dancing for us for quite a while. And is it the right dance? So those are where all my questions are going to come from.
And we appreciate that feedback, and that's what we need for clarifying next steps. So what I'm hearing for this one is that we've confirmed that it is a city-initiated, supported by alternative funding, whether that's grants or Prop 123. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the second part of that is City Council asking for staff to provide a bit more of a framework, as well as potentially alternatives if this is the right fit for us, for City Council. Is that?
And that's what's written here too. It says to provide a framework, to bring back a framework for us. So we're just confirming what it already says.
Great. So when you come back, if you have options to say, this will help 30 people, we could help more if we did this, that would be great for us to be able to weigh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move on, any other thoughts? Okay, we spent a lot of time on that one.
So we're going to turn to the next page. It's going to be straddling a bit of page 2 and a bit of page 3. Just need some clarification on 1.4.5. Mayor Pro Tem, in the outcome and task description, you added at the end, annually only if numbers are easily accessible. And just wanted to confirm that that addition is if City Council is comfortable with that addition to allow flexibility based upon accessibility of the numbers to be able to complete the housing needs assessment.
I think, once again, I'm just going to ask for council before we dive into it for a little bit more clarification here on that question. So I think, are you asking only if we can afford a study every 3 years, or only if we can pull those numbers? Can you just hone in a little bit more on what the question is?
The statement is preserve owner occupancy, including anchoring ongoing analyses of corporate and out-of-state ownership in the Westminster Housing Needs Assessment, and establishing 3-year renewal cycles for housing needs assessment or following the state housing cycle with specific number updates, either annually or, if numbers are easily accessible, or every 3 years. And so what I'm asking, if City Council is comfortable with the stipulation of if the renewal of following the state of updating numbers can be either done annually or every 3 years, depending on the availability of the numbers.
I don't think we need it annually. Like, it doesn't matter, 2-3 years. We can just move on from this quickly, right? Is that fine with you, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah.
3 years is fine.
Any other thoughts?
I think we should save money, so I know these are not cheap to do.
Right.
And just talking to people, I know what these young people are going through to afford condos, so I think we all know that it's a struggle. Anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
What I remember from the strat plan was every 3 years, so thank you.
So moving on to, on page 3, 1.5, parentheses 151. Just looking for clarification on number 5. The item is for 2026 strategies draft, a request for information/qualifications for tiny home pilot and wraparound services. The comment that was provided is separate this out. This should not be automatically included. Lots of money, ongoing maintenance costs. Unless this is permanent housing, this is not the best use of our funds. So we're looking for clarification if we should move forward with this RFI, or if additional information is needed for City Council prior to making that RFI, RFQ.
Thoughts? Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, if this is similar to some of the other projects that I've gone to sessions about at conferences, this can be well over $1 million a year to sustain. And so I'm just trying to understand if this is sort of more permanent housing that we're kind of like setting up and, not continuing to maintain and own. I don't even know if that's even possible, or is it something where it's like temporary stay, and the temporary stay does have cost implications. So I think that's just something that we need to be aware of and distinguish, because there's just ongoing maintenance costs, and it can't, this was a couple of years ago when the $1 million price tag was on it. So I just want us to be eyes wide open with what this could cost us.
Councilor Barajas?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what this attends to. I was under the impression that tiny home program, like it would just be like, if a developer wants to build a bunch of tiny homes, or if there would be no kind of city input other than what we're inputting for developments right now. Is this like a tiny home for those who are experiencing homelessness, or like kind of like a facility but tiny home oriented? Is that like what you're?
I didn't know.
Okay.
So I mean, there's just difference.
Is for those like offering housing, temporary or something housing?
No, not temporary. Just like if a developer wants to come in and develop a village of homes, or a pilot to see if it can even work here, right? Because they're supposed to be much more affordable. So the vision is, let's figure something out. It doesn't have to be there's no specific design that I had in mind, at least from all these years, but we need to look into it.
To clarify, that's what I think we need to clarify, what this request is. Is this a request to look into it? And that was my understanding from this. Is that correct, Councilor?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any difficulties from council with the request to look into this vision?
Well, I think we need to tap into our counties too, and Jefferson County never told us anything about how much money they have to go towards this either. When we went to meet with them, it was like vague.
Yeah, so the way we have it written it makes it confusing for me, because it says tiny home pilot with wraparound services, and so that's what set me into that services cost money and we have to keep those ongoing. So if it's more in and out, like market level kind of project, that's different. And we'd have to just temper our expectations around those wraparound services and what we actually need.
I know we're already trying to keep people in their homes. We spent money towards that, 300 and something thousand. I know mental illness is half of their homeless problem, and I don't know how we address that, but that's one part of it that's huge.
And Mayor, to go back to Councilor Barras' point too, on we're not relitigating each thing, right? This is what the budget workshop was for, to prioritize and say if we don't want something, if we do want something. I think what staff is asking is the wording correct? Is the vision correct? Not, do you guys want to relitigate every item? I just wanted to bring that up again.
Councilor Hott?
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. I was saying this is just a request for information. This isn't the time to get into details, that's what the request for information is. That's when we get into the details. That's when we flesh out. That's when we decide, hey, maybe this isn't what's best for the future. Maybe this is. This isn't what we're doing. We're just going over, and this is just a request for information. It's not, we are absolutely doing a tiny home village. It is just a request for information. And if we are trying to get the details of everything that this information is supposed to come back to us, if we're trying to get all the information tonight, we're never going to get through this.
Thank you, Counselor. And if I can help us move through this, because I understand we want to make sure to keep it all and that it makes sense. I'd like to ask my quick question, which is, do we have an idea of how much something like that might cost us? How much would an RFI be? Do we have a ballpark?
Lindsay Kimball, Community Services Director. We could make a ballpark estimate. We've looked at some exemplars throughout the country. There's some really fantastic examples in Idaho, Utah, even in our own metro area that we've been visiting. And this is a co-led project with myself and Eric Otzelberger here in PRL. So we've been team tagging this subject. The short answer is we don't know. I wouldn't want to even give you an estimate. That's actually why staff is recommending to go out and do the RFP, or RFI, I'm sorry. And we also want to get out there. This is also, we see it as an effort to get out there, find prospects, shun the waters, if you will, and visit more of the nonprofits who are currently running these tiny homes, learn from them, come back to you with further information before we invest that kind of time and money, to do that, or to even put together the RFI and publish it and communicate that to the development community and nonprofit world. We want the assurance that this is what you would like us to do, because what staff is envisioning is that we would put in this effort to do the work, do the research, make those connections with nonprofits and developers, build relationships, which is incredibly important. Even if it's not a tiny home project, we'll be building and strengthening those throughout the country, frankly, so that we can make better decisions in the future. That is what the staff's concept is right now of this, and we just want to confirm it.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you just highlighting exactly what I wanted to emphasize, which is the work outlined here itself is a large investment of staff's time and money. Yeah. Personally, I'll just give my opinion before we go around and make sure that we're all set. I still want to keep it here. I think this is the right time and the right place for us to look at options like this. And I would like to say to staff, yes, this is where we should be spending our energy. However, when there are questions, this is a large investment. The looking into it itself can take up to a year. Right, it's a project. Okay, other thoughts? Okay. I'll say no. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to page 4, staff is not requesting any further clarifications unless there's questions from City Council regarding emergent items. Okay, moving on to page 5.
And Erin, forgive me, can you speak a little louder?
Sure, no problem. Get my mom voice out. So moving on to page 5, still no questions, clarifying questions from staff, so we are good unless there's City Council questions.
I did want to talk a little bit about 2.4. Okay. I think the City Council feedback captures it pretty good, but in my conversations about this topic and the total scope, I think there was, after we submitted feedback, something came up related to the transportation and mobility plan, including connections with the city's development plan and projections for future development, because I think we have a plan that if we were to update it would be our static city, but the vision for this is as we see ODPs and things, being able to connect our transportation and mobility plan to future growth and future potential growth. So, not only our TODs, but other areas where our infrastructure may sustain growth or through infrastructure developments could sustain growth. And then I think that scope changes the cost in talking to staff about this. So I wanted to make sure that was captured in this. So when you go back and project costs, we make sure we get it right.
Is City Council comfortable with that addition? We will make that addition because right now the goal for 2026 is develop that RFP, so we'll make sure we build that in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I just want to pause and reemphasize his question because I had thought that was built in, and I think he was clarifying whether it is or isn't. And so are we clear on the full scope of what he said?
Mayor and Councilor Johnson, we'll make that edit specifically to this text so that it is referenced in this. So we'll add what in effect will be a blue line to that effect here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless council says not to do that tonight.
It's not normally part of our, I mean, you usually do your overall development build out, and then you look at your, oh my God, my brain is not getting the word.
Comp plan?
Well, no, you do the impacts, the cumulative impacts of regional growth as well as future growth. So that's normally in a plan like this.
We'll make sure that the wording reflects that, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor, Mayor, that it does include the reference to all the things that we include in the Transportation Mobility Plan, which is a direct connection to the land use and then the future projected development. I think it's become less of an issue in Westminster as we approach build out, but we are now shifting into redevelopment mode, and that's where we really want to be paying attention, which I think is what you're driving at. So we'll make sure that if you're comfortable, I do believe that staff understands that we want to put the wording here to be crystal clear on that point.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's just a nerd moment. Like, we do have a lot of growth happening in Thornton, and so that regional growth does actually impact us. So I just want to make sure people know that even if we're growing slowly, Thornton's looking at increasing population by about 100,000 people over, with their build out. So that does impact our roads.
Thank you for that update. I did not know that. To those numbers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarifying points. 2.5, which carries over from page 5 to page 6. Staff has no additional clarifying questions. Moving on to page 7. City manager spoke a little bit to 3.2 with exploring and implementing the community noise ordinance. With some of the efforts of Chief Halbert. Just wanted to make sure that City Council was comfortable with that approach. Okay. Moving on.
I'm sorry, Aaron, this is the one that I referenced. We've already been working on this, and that will come to you next Monday.
Thank you. And thank you. I'll just mention staff has worked overtime to pull this together for us. They didn't have all of the staff resources they normally do to put this together, and we didn't follow our usual process of putting it on the agenda and having that full discussion. We will be having that now that the community knows that this is going to be on the agenda. But I just want to highlight that this was a real pull through, and so thank you for making it happen so fast.
So moving on to page 8, which carries into with 3.8, 3.9, carries a little bit into page 9. Staff has no additional, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So where it says minimal, I add that word that actually said never mind. I was going back and forth between the document when I was filling this out that we had at our budget workshop. And so I had started to write something in the wrong spot, and so I put never mind.
Oh,
so where it says minimal, that was a never mind because I made a mistake where I was putting my comments.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Councilor, thank you. We talked about the never mind, and we weren't sure. We carried it through just to be safe. So
yeah, it was just a never mind because I realized that was the wrong spot. I was trying to make a comment. So yeah.
Okay, so moving on to page 9, specifically 4.3, 4.3.1. Just wanted to confirm that the outcome and task descriptions and how it relates, Just want to make sure that the new addition of the, of item number 1, if that fits with City Council's direction.
Any thoughts?
Want me to explain or? it's written there?
I think we're all, I don't see any questions, so
Just want to
we'll
make
move
sure.
ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to page 10, 4.4. So item number 1 was added. 1 counselor struck through item number 2, and 1 counselor added, keeping item number 2, and just wanted to see if the direction of, or preference of City Council is to keep both items 1 and 2, or just keep 1 and strike 2.
So I striked 2 because it wasn't a robust representation of the vision. 1 is the replacement for 2, which is inclusive of 2, which is more so specific to what that program is, which is a reflection of the Adams County program that was approved a couple months ago.
And Councilor Ireland, I see your notes. I do see within 1 that we would look at county programs. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, well, I know that they're getting property tax decrease, and I know our property taxes aren't that much anyway. So I just want to know the implication of how much that will cost us, you think?
Councilor Ireland, thank you for the question. And first, to address what Councilor Azadi said, 1 does provide a lot more clarification on the program intent that Councilor Azadi had indicated, so that's helpful to know. 2 is a strikeout because it's replaced and better, more fully described by item 1. And I believe that tracking the county's data, that we would anticipate that would be in the range of $50,000 for the city, that range of impact. Our tax rates are so low, and I was talking earlier with Councilor Azadi, we actually had the city council, not this city council, a city council lower tax rates a couple decades ago or more, and so we lowered low tax rates. So
We've never raised our property taxes, and we lowered it. We're probably the only one to lower it a couple of decades ago.
Bless us.
So the short answer, Councilor Ireland, is that we're tracking what the county is doing. It's in the range of 50.
And I didn't say, but the diapers and the formula, you know how much that will cost too? I know the state is already doing, I found out, I read this, already doing diapers and feminine hygiene products and, products for elderly. They already have no sales tax on those 2 items. In 2023, they passed that.
And
Before I was on here.
and most grocery items too. There's no state there's no state tax. So this will, but our municipal home rule sales tax does not reflect those exemptions. So this is why I brought this forward, that we should not be doing this.
But what the impact is on the sales tax revenue on, well, you told me this, but that also.
So Councilor Ireland, thank you for that question. That's not this one, but the range of the proposed tax exemption on baby formula, diapers, and feminine products is in that $500,000 a year range. We'll keep running those numbers,
Okay.
But our tax folks are looking at it right now for us. But that would be, I just wanted to give you an order of magnitude answer.
Okay, thank you.
And so kind of a tenfold difference from this one.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to page 11, staff has no clarifying comments. And then same with the last page, 12, staff has no additional comments. So with your recommendations, staff will blur the lines from blue and red and make it all black. So this is our plan for strategies for 26 and 27 to implement the prioritized outcomes and tasks, and continue to come in checkpoints and to make sure we're aligned with next steps of implementation, or if there's questions or alternatives to be able to share if City Council is comfortable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Assistant City Manager Chris Lindsay.
And as we transition to Mr. Lindsay into we're going through the capital improvement plan list, this will be up to you to decide how much you want to get into this tonight. I think the main message I would say, repeat really, is that of the highlighted projects in here through the three categories of savings, reductions, or deferrals that I mentioned at the beginning of this topic, there's a total of $5.5 million. And so now that you have finalized the task and outcome list, staff will treat the task and outcomes list as a work plan to execute, and we will then start to drive back into city council meetings the items on that list as you've prioritized for high, low, and such, and bring those back in with recommended funding sources that we're now about to talk about.
Sorry, sir, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yep, thanks, Larry. So hopefully that makes sense. So tasks and outcomes now, we take that as a document to deliver back to you. And some of those are going to be a recommendation and an action like an ordinance. Others will be a much deeper review when it comes to program design around the big program that we talked about just a little while ago. But the capital list that you have before you, just to say it again, every item in this list is an open capital project for the city that's not completed yet. Or if it's completed, it has been completed under budget.
Okay. So can we study this for a couple days before we?
Well, it was in the packet,
They
so
sent it to us many days ago.
I'm gonna allow our folks to lead the presentation, and then we'll figure out where the discussion leads us. Counselor.
One question just on the outcome. I know you had mentioned, I just want to make sure it gets captured in this process. You had mentioned the 60,000 for transparency, like explicitly. I know you had mentioned that's in here, but does that need to also be listed in the outcomes for that to be captured? It just wasn't in a blue staff note. I just want to make sure we cover it. I mean, I guess you can ask for our direction on it in this. I don't know if there's a plan for. I just want to make sure there's a plan to
I'm
address
just
it.
going to pull us up a little bit, although we are in the weeds tonight. Let's go through anything that we can cut first, and then let's let staff make the recommendations as to where they should be applied. Because I think unless I'm missing what you're.
I guess I don't. Is it going to be covered? I guess is the question.
Councilor, thank you. Quickly, unless council doesn't want me to do that, I can go ahead and execute that. I think we'll have enough room in this list, is what I was saying.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because I don't think it's in this list. I guess I didn't want it to get forgotten.
That's fair. Yeah. That's a fair point. But I'd like us to look at everything we're going to cut before we start applying funds. But you're right. Let's make that a priority.
I mean, for sure. Wherever it makes sense. We just brought it up in the context of this conversation. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Take it away.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Chris Lindsay, Assistant City Manager. In front of you this evening and attached to the packet is 7 pages of capital projects that are currently open that are within the city's General Capital Improvement Fund and General Capital Outlay Replacement Fund. The General Capital Improvement Fund supports capital projects for those departments that are in the general fund. Think of the police department, the fire department, streets, our internal service groups. And then the General Capital Outlay Replacement Fund supports capital outlay. So think vehicle purchases, PC replacements, and many of those we accrue funds to cash purchase larger vehicles, larger purchases over time. We've provided really a wealth of information on the spreadsheet that's attached. I'll just orient you starting from the left, moving to the right. So we've got a reference number on the far left, an account number, year of project inception. You'll see many of these that are ongoing projects go back quite a few years. They've had quite a bit of budget since inception. The department, project name, project description. Type, I mentioned ongoing. We have either major, which are typically one-time projects, or ongoing, which are projects that we're spending from year after year, major maintenance, vehicle replacement accounts, those sorts of things. Staff has highlighted where there are restricted revenues, retainage, or commitments related to a specific capital project. You'll see that in red text in that column. The total budget since the inception of the project, the 2026 budget. So that's the amount of funds that was added through the 2026 budget, how much has been expended across years, open commitments. That's where City Council might have approved a contract, a purchase order's been executed, but we haven't yet spent those funds. So that's listed as an open commitment. Expenses plus open commitments equals the total encumbrances there. And then that total budget minus total encumbrances gives you the balance. That's the amount that hasn't been spent or committed to date. Staff identified potential for reductions or deferrals in the column, and then we've added some notes specific to those projects that we identified for potential reduction or deferral. Mayor, staff's willing to go through this however you'd like to. Certainly we've identified those 16 projects that are highlighted in the peach color on here. We can speak to those, but we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. I think let's go ahead and go through just the peach because those are 16 items and they make the most sense for right now. Council can ask questions about, you know, whatever it is you feel, whether this is feasible to delay, cut, or keep. And then we can have good answers one by one as we go. Yes.
Could I propose one way of looking at this?
Sure.
There are projects that came in under budget or that are not needed till many, many years away versus projects that we're just saying delay to 2027. And I'm wondering if people are in agreement, like for those that are just like under budget, that's money that we should use and that we should be maybe focusing in on the ones that are you know, potentially to be delayed and that.
I like that. I did see some notes on some of them that are under budget that potentially we may need the money depending on subscriptions, completing the implementation, et cetera. Does staff have any concerns with us going ahead and circling long-term projects that came in under budget? Are there any projects we want to pull from that list if we did that? To just take a closer look at?
No, I don't believe so.
You feel comfortable if we said, okay, projects that came in under budget, let's grab those funds?
Yeah, the number in the second column from the right reflects staff's best recommendation to you with no impact from what you've described.
Okay.
And again, I would say that, you know, if there was in the case of the second one that's highlighted, if there's you know, an annual maintenance such, that would shift over into our operating budget anyway.
Okay. All right. I just saw that in the notes. So if we're comfortable, then let's go ahead. Are we okay going line by line and then removing the ones that are beyond 2027? Want to restate what you said, clarity?
So I was just saying, as a general, you know, rules we're going through this just to maybe make it go faster is that those things that are that came in under budget, we just, you know, say, yeah, let's use that, and then just more focus on the ones that are the delay.
Great. So Chris, I would recommend
That works for us. Yeah.
Go top to bottom, and you can move quickly through the under budget ones.
Gotcha.
First one is not an under budget one, so that one's we're talking about. Second one is. So if you could do it that way, I think that we could help the most.
Agreed.
Got it.
So, and we're gonna talk, like, are you gonna explain each line, or should we only the ones that we have questions on? Like that aren't under budget, I guess. Like, I guess if we have questions.
If we have questions.
Okay, but if not, then we can just move through, maybe?
That's right.
Okay.
Brief description of each one.
Brief description of each one. All right, so line number 2, that's the vehicle replacement capital outlay account for our public safety vehicles. When our team looked at this year's purchases, we have a number of vehicles that have already been purchased that are waiting to be upfitted. So it's a substantial process to get lights on, decals, sirens, everything added to get a factory vehicle onto the road. So our team has recommended delaying the purchase of 8 police vehicles due to the delays of upfitting of vehicles that were already purchased but are not yet on the road.
I'll add to this. From what I understand, we have about 12 fleet vehicles that are already not outfitted because of lack of capacity, and so it doesn't make sense to purchase another 8. But I'm just immediately going to ask, that being the case, and I appreciate this being brought to us, Is there any reason we can't allocate more than the 720,000? Because it looks like it's closer to $1 million for this year alone, and then there's an almost $5 million budget total.
So we have some additional vehicle purchases that are planned, and the funds haven't yet gone out. So this is where we purchased what are now more than $1 million fire vehicles out of this account. And we do have some restricted revenues that are in here from the EMS supplemental funds from Medicare, Medicaid as well. So there's some restrictions. So what we've identified are what we believe will not be spent in the near future.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
So for these that are delay, would we just otherwise have rolled this over into next year?
Correct.
And used it then?
Correct.
So if we decide, oh, let's use that $720,000 this year, then you're going to have to make that ask for it in our 2027 budget because you're going to need it.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, however, the problem could continue, right? We still have a large collection of unoutfitted, brand new police vehicles at the Municipal Service Center. So 2027 will be a new budget exercise on capital where we'll look at that and decide maybe it isn't even 8 that we can, that the private contractor could accommodate. It might be 3 or 4.
Too bad we can't create it. I know it's a problem for many cities that there's only a couple of outfitters. I'm like, can we just create our own for-profit business?
Enterprise.
Enterprise.
Mayor Pro Tem, I actually worked for a city where we did that, and we made a lot of money off of outfitting other people's police vehicles.
Okay, well, I'll just offer that up, my friend.
Oh, now it's interesting.
So we'll look into that.
Better suggestion with the money saved.
Right. All right, any other thoughts on that? Are we comfortable?
What are we comfortable with? I'm confused.
I believe we're comfortable with taking the 720,000 and using it for current projects because we're not going to be purchasing another 8 vehicles this year.
I want a question.
Unless I hear any nays.
I had a question this morning I sent out. How economically are we doing since February when we talked about sales tax and we were not doing as well as in the past? How are we doing now? It's June. We're into another quarter. Because I don't know if we really have the money to spend if we're not bringing in what we think we need.
We didn't prepare an economic update for this evening. Certainly that's something we could do for a future meeting if you would, direct.
As soon as possible, it'd be great.
Councilor, I'm sorry, Mayor. What I would note is these are what we would call one-time money, and the operating budget and analysis, which will be our operating budget analysis. So if, to follow through, I think with that question, that thinking is, if we were in a real bind this year on our operating budget, would we use capital to balance it? And I think what Assistant City Manager Lindsay has said is we'll come back to you with the analysis on the operating budget. I think with respect to that, it is a tight budget year, right? Revenues are down. It's not as cut and dried as it might seem, though. So we do have ups in some of our revenues, and we do have downs in some other of our revenues. And so that's why we're not able to give you a really clean answer tonight. But that analysis is ongoing, and we have the CU Lead School of Business working closely with us on those. So we'll get those back to you as soon as we can. But when it comes to a line item like this with a one-time capital, I think you're in solid ground with looking at it for a one-time expense related to a one-time cost. So the tasks and outcomes lists are primarily one-time costs also.
Other thoughts? Mayor Pro Tem?
For this one then, are we thinking that we might not even need it in 2027? Or like it could be a 2028 ask? I'm just trying to figure out, like, these dollars, are we just going to need them anyway next year?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. Can I answer it maybe in a different way? If we don't redeploy the 720,000, we either buy it and the vehicles sit and depreciate in the lot while they wait to get outfitted, or the money sits in our bank account and has less power. So in other words, we can put this money to use now, this year, and then revisit the replacement of the police vehicles next year when we've hopefully had the ones we've already purchased outfitted, and then we would pick up from there the replacement program. These are replacement vehicles, and so the other ones are still in service that they're replacing. They're just getting good use.
Yep.
So in this case, I think it doesn't probably have much of an impact at all on beyond the impact we're already sustaining by having our current replacement vehicles sitting in the lot, if that makes sense.
Okay.
All right, if I could go down to line number 10, that's the station alerting system upgrade. This is a project that will come in under budget, according to our staff in the fire department, due to recently received proposals, and it's looking more like it'll be an ongoing cost with an annual maintenance program as opposed to a larger one-time investment. So they've identified $750,000 that could be released from that project.
Any thoughts?
It's really good news.
I agree, that's exciting.
All right, let's go down to the bottom of the first page, line number 22. So this is the account that's very similar to the one we talked about that was on line number 2, but this is our general vehicle replacement accounts. And our team has identified that we could delay the replacement of 4 trailers for the Parks, Rec, and Libraries Department and reallocate 3 low utilization vehicles, defer an additional vehicle replacement that would defer $248,000 worth of expenses in 2026.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if this, to maybe our Parks Department, if this was, if we had like designation on which ones, like for libraries or for events, or like what the actual trailers, like the ones that we would be deferring would be. I know or which ones we're reallocating, and then which one would be a deferral. I just want to make sure our libraries don't get the short end of the stick, I guess, is the intent of asking.
Counselor, all trailers are in our Parks, Golf, and Open Space Division.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts? Are we comfortable with saving this money? Like reusing it, repurposing it? Okay. I'll just comment that I did reach out on this item. I did hear back that there might be bigger impact felt by staff on this one. And so I just want to revisit that, but I'm still personally leaning towards let's use the money now. If we can defer 1 year, I think most vehicles can make it 1 year. But do we think that there's any exponential impact that'll be felt by the community or staff for these trucks?
Mayor will analyze that as we're going through the 2027 budget process and looking at all the vehicle replacements that are on the list.
Okay.
And Mayor, I would also add in this case, this is one of the few, if maybe the only one on the list where because this is a replacement of active equipment that's aging, and it's not the same case as the police vehicles because we've already purchased the replacements, we just can't get them in the field. So if this one were to fall to the bottom of the list of money we drew on, I think our teams in PR&L would appreciate that. So maybe there's a way that we could structure back to you if you don't disagree with that we can move this one down the list and hold this unless we need it.
Right.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say it's the golf? So why wouldn't the golf fund pay for this?
No, sorry. I think
These are the Parks, Golf, and Open Space Division, which is across multiple funds.
Yep.
Yes.
The fund is accurate, though, Councillor. Okay.
All right, on to the next page. We'll go down to line number 27, which is an IT department project related to citywide fiber assessment. This is one where a cash flow of $500,000 is not required in 2026. So $1 million is appropriated here. We're not going to spend $500,000 of that However, we would need to review that for budget in 2027. We have a staff member that's being paid for through these funds, and having these funds available keeps a workload for that project. This supports the traffic signal infrastructure network and the city's other fiber network that's shared across multiple departments.
All right, seeing no questions, I'm going to go ahead and ask my own, which is that this is a pretty high priority, is our traffic signal, just revisiting all of them throughout the city, I think right now is a high priority. And so I just want to make sure I understand that this is just simply work that is not finished yet for this year. And so this definitely is going to be re-needed next year, correct? So we will need to find it. However, do we have any concerns right now with saving this money and reallocating it? No? Okay. If we have no concerns, then I say let's rebudget. But any other thoughts?
I just know there's been a lot of outreach about traffic signals, and maybe that's a priority over some of the other things that we...
So just to be clear though, right, about this, sorry, not to interrupt. Were you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go
sorry. Just to be clear though, this is not reducing traffic signal budget or anything. This is not impacting anything about traffic. This is extra money that won't be spent this year. So there's no impact to traffic in 2026.
Thank you, Councilor and Councilor Ireland. This does not impact our implementation, because what we're saying effectively with this line is it's the middle of June and we are not going to be able to spend that by the end of the year. So in other words, there's two things that happen in this case. One is we just carry that in effect over into next year's capital budget, so that 500,000 sits there for 6 to 10 months before being spent, or we put it to use now and then we put the amount that we need into next year's budget to finish this project. Does that make sense? So this is one of the ones that fits in the category of we know that we're not going to spend it this year.
We have people that we have had to say no to because we don't have the money to do a traffic signal. That's the thing I'm saying. So will we ever have the money to do a traffic signal if we spend it for something else?
And perhaps we can clarify that this is specifically for fiber project related to our traffic signals. And I believe that we're not purposing it because we're moving as fast as we can throughout the city. We only have so many resources, but the project will not be complete. And so these are the dollars available. To your point, yes, that's still a priority. Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Is there anything incorrect? Okay.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time with some of these that are things that we'll reevaluate in 2027, just given the economy and where we're going. I want to make sure we have a buffer, and particularly because we haven't yet seen what the potential budget is going to look like for next year. So we don't know if, this one, I'll follow what staff recommends, but I think at some point we may not be able to replace all of these that we think we might with the 2027 budget. So if we can at least have that in our minds as we go through.
And to your point, for me, any projects that we absolutely know need to be completed, personally, I like to put this at the very bottom of the budget as well. So this one, along with the PRL trucks, I think let's see where we land on our strategic priorities and what's covered, but I'd love to put this at the bottom and hopefully roll it over. Okay.
All right, then, let's move one line down, line number 28. This is a Public Works and Utilities project to replace the roof on the Municipal Services Center heated salt storage building. That roof has reached the end of its life. We budgeted $658,000 this year. However, with the other roof replacement that's 2 lines above, the fleet roof replacement, the staff is not going to be able to get to this one this year. So this is a project where those funds could be deferred and utilized this year and then reevaluated for future capital project.
How old is the roof now?
I don't know, but we've been watching this one for some time now for replacement.
We don't know the age. We've been watching it for some time was the answer.
Like 2027? Is it a priority?
No, I mean, I think we can go another year. It's just at some point we're going to need to replace it. We've got a large inventory of salt that we're keeping warm and out of the weather, and this does that. So we're not facing imminent collapse of the roof or anything at this moment, but it's one of those things in our facilities inventory that is near term relatively, but we could get by with another year. We feel like.
Counselor?
This is, obviously my first rodeo with the city budget. I see the line, like the note, this project is not prepared to move forward. So I understand maybe we're going to need to budget it for next year. But is the constraint there's going to be other roofs, but if we're only able to get to 10 municipal roofs a year, we're going to be constrained again, and not necessarily on this thing, but I'm just saying it won't be this is a line that we're going to need to do every single year, and this will also have. I guess what I'm really asking is, what is the constraint that is causing it to be not ready for this year, specifically for this project, and maybe if that could give kind of insight into some of these other projects that are.
Well, in this one, it's just a matter of capacity to get it through our system, staff capacity to get it processed through procurement, through the design phase, through the bidding and construction. We're already it's halfway through the year, and so we're looking ahead. We don't think that realistically we're going to be able to spend all this money this year on that project. We were able to last year get it into the 5-year capital plan, which is good. We projected that we would have funds in 26, and this was one of our priorities to place on the list, and we did that. If we weren't having this discussion right now, that money would carry over to next year, and we would get on to it then. So right now it's a staffing constraint. I mean, we have funding constraints, and then we have the ability to get it through the pipeline as well. With what the resources that we have. So I don't know if that helps answer the question.
Thank you, Director.
Other thoughts?
I think that should go to the bottom too.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm not sure that I want to kick the can on that.
Especially on a commodity that would expire with a leaky roof.
Yeah, this is a resource. I'll just say I don't want us to run risks of if something happens and all of a sudden we need an emergency if we kick the can too many years. So I think I want to either put this at the bottom of the list or roll this over, seeing where we're at, I think, when we're done, if we can maybe not include this yet.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. We'll move down to line number 40, which is SCBA replacement. It's a fire department project to replace the self-contained breathing apparatus and air fill stations. This is a project that's a rather expensive project, $3.5 million. When we get to the point where those SCBAs need to be replaced, due to that, we've been allocating budget to this project annually. However, those are not due to be replaced for another 7 years. So this is money that could be freed up and utilized this year if council directed.
Thoughts? Well, I would say this, to me, this is an easy yes. I mean, 7 years, I think we'll have enough time to replace $500,000. Any other thoughts?
I'm not as confident, but
yeah, I'm not totally confident either.
I'll say that the 16 out of the, was it 100 and, what's the total? 152? If our subject matter experts on staff are saying these 16 we cannot do with, I trust staff. So they probably looked at more variables than we are. Just to be fair to staff here, that I'm good with all 16 personally, but this one for sure, it's one that the mayor is saying, staff is saying they can do without, I think they can do without.
Thank you, Council.
I'll just say, like, staff has done this in what, 3 days? How quickly? How many hours? How many days did we do this? I don't think this was done in a way, to be honest, that we would want to repeat. This is not a methodology that is typical, and so I'm just going to keep calling out that, staff has, I think, been asked to do this, and they have done it. But I don't think it's something I would want to see us repeat every year or every 2 years as we get a new council and we blow up budgets. We're going to do this budget. We'll do a budget next year, and if council changes and that new council comes in and blows up the budget that we just did, I don't think this sets a good precedent. So I'll just say that this concerns me, and so I am thinking about each one of these, and that the implications of what does that leave us with in the coming years to have to come up with.
And are the things that we want now more important than the things that are already on here? Are they really more important than these? We got to evaluate that too, because we may not have the money for these.
Right, and that's why we're leaving no stone unturned. So I hear the concerns. I also want to note that this council's made a very clear directive to, first of all, take accountability around dollars, and which we've been doing an excellent job over the last several years. But council has not had a whole lot of transparency or insight into all of the details of the budget.
No.
And so this council has decided that we want that access, and we've asked for it, and now we have it. And so a lot of this hasn't been reviewed by any council. The budget overall is approved, but how many councilors have gone through line by line a CIP plan? It's pretty unusual.
Is that our role?
That's a fair question, but our role is to set the policy and to understand what.
It's a good exercise to know what we're really spending on and what's the priority in the city.
To know exactly, before we can direct staff to make decisions, we need to know what money is available.
And rather than adding to government, to growing it, we're saying reprioritize existing. This is the most fiscally responsible budget process I've ever been a part of in 5 years. So I don't see what the criticisms are. I think staff has done an excellent job of frugally looking at all the projects that they're doing. And they're saying, these 16, here's some fat for council to cut. And this is what we've been asking for them since the beginning of time, and they're actually doing it. So this is actually a really good news story.
I would say this is out of the norm of what we should be doing in terms of the level of detail, and that this wouldn't be something that I would ask of staff to do every year. This has been, maybe there's some policy on how we approach our budgets in the future, but this has been a lot of extra work for staff. And things like this, I appreciate that, and I recognize and know that we always have carryover and things that are not always spent. So some of, like what is here is probably fine. But this has felt like a rushed process for staff, and, I can't imagine this being like the norm every year for how we develop budget, and then second, and then question it the next year. Are we doing this next year on our 2027 budget, like halfway through?
We have a brand new council this year, and I hope, as we did last year, that the majority of council would be majority comfortable with what we had agreed on the year before. And so I'm hoping that this council will be, for the majority, pretty much in alignment with what we agreed on this year, just like we did last year. And so I will not go against the directive. This has been multiple people asking for this really in-depth process to be hands-on. And so that's just the direction that we're taking, is to be really in-depth and to save resource time allocation as well as the actual dollars.
Well, we're setting a precedent, I will say, for if council changes direction, that we are setting a precedent to pick apart budgets that are set. So I would just say, like in our 2028 efforts, if council should change, I mean, this is a precedent we're setting for that new council to come in and, you know, change the work that's been done. And I appreciate everything that everyone's doing. I'm just looking more at the precedent and trying to have us be cognizant of what this cost us and what this could cost us in the future as a city, because I really don't want to see us going through budget processes like this. This is a lot of staff time.
Thank you. Councilor Barajas?
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, like to the policy and budget crew or just the city manager's perspective. You know, is this, from my understanding, it seems like you all, you know, are constantly being creative in terms of turning over stones, looking at FTE flexibility. And so if there is like I think the difference now is maybe we're getting eyes on it, but has this been, like, I guess I would imagine, like, would a better process just be like, oh, here's a number that we're comfortable with, staff says this is good, and then we can move forward with some savings in budget that way, you know, like reallocations?
I've never, and I'll just answer this for staff to not put them in a hard place, but we have never looked at the CIP this way. The public has never had access line by line to these items and to what the city manager proposed before we got going on this topic. Him pulling a report to list every contract for the public, that has never been done. So this is a new access for the public to see everything that the city is working on at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So this is a whole new level of transparency.
Which I certainly can appreciate. I guess I know staff is constantly working on, you know, like, oh, this program, you know, maybe in parks, it's like, oh, this, you know, we came in under budget on this, so we're using these swing sets that we were gonna buy, and that turned out, so we're just gonna do it over here. Like, I don't think that that's necessarily rewriting like council's direction on a budget. I think that's just them using like stuff that's allocated appropriately. And I think I'm glad for the transparency. I'm okay with kind of having a discussion around process that makes sense, but I guess, you know, I'm also trusting, you know, that like whether we have eyes on it, which I think is good, whether it's published, which I think is also good, and we have eyes on it, you know, like staff, I imagine, is doing a lot of this creative work, and I don't think that it's necessarily undermining what we're doing. Anyway, so I'm appreciative, and I forget what line we're on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So with that, if we have further questions on the process, which we've been going over the last several weeks, let's bring those up, and I appreciate the comments on that. That is absolutely fair. We need to, which is what every council does, create the process as we go, and that is what our job is. It's complicated because we're creating new processes every single year. But with that, I really want to make sure the staff has the time to get through their items. So.
And Mayor, may I offer, with respect to this part of the conversation, each year we do a budget debrief with City Council, budget process debrief, and we did one this year as well, got feedback. And I did it the year before, which is why we ended up modifying our budget process. I will recommend that when we do the debrief, we include this mid-year CIP review with council, and we put that up for rediscussion, and that will be at the end of the budget cycle, and then you all can discuss and decide. I didn't answer Mayor Pro Tem's question. For this work, 6 directors, 10 hours, plus support staff, 80 to 120 hours to get this here to you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'll move on to the next project. Let's go down to line 44, the Information Technology Department project, the Stanley Lake Fiber Connection. It's to expand the city's fiber network where we're currently using point-to-point radio system. Our Parks, Rec, and Libraries director has volunteered if we wish to cut this project, he'll find the funds within the post fund. So it would require an offsetting reduction within the post fund, but it would open up general fund dollars to be available.
Questions? What are the risks associated with going towards the post fund?
Keep going back in the corner.
Hoping that we don't.
This is giving me a special delight this evening. Just being able to mess with Andy is good fun. So on this project, and I appreciate IT's leadership on our fiber asset. It's an incredible asset that the city enjoys. So this is a partner effort, IT leading. Parks, Rec, and Libraries, yes, getting to Stanley is part of it, but Fire Station 5 is part of it, as are a couple traffic signals. So, turning over rocks, we've already repurposed 379,000 for this. The fire department has kicked in roughly 130,000. So we have 500,000 or so. We're operating in partnership with Jefferson County through a shared fiber network along 100th that we have an IGA for. So David may have final costs, but I'm confident we already have some funding identified by turning over rocks. And if actual project costs come in higher than what we've identified already, we can repurpose some funding and impose the risk or impact is low, and just speaking frankly, it might mean a little less irrigation work in a given year or something of that nature, or a little less on a rec facility improvement. But this fiber project is important not just for Parks, Rec, and Libraries, but for a variety of departments on that western side of the city.
Right, I'm really excited about this fiber project, and so I want to make sure that it's not put at risk. So thank you for that context. Any other questions on this? Okay, are we comfortable reallocating? Okay.
All right, top of page 3, project number 48, Public Works and Utilities, rec facility parking lots. This is our major maintenance and repair account that's ongoing. The Public Works and Utilities department identified that we could delay the repaving of parking lots at the park maintenance shop for savings or reduction deferral of $375,000, and that project would be reviewed for future funding.
Thoughts or questions? Personally, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with repurposing this, because this is very visible. We've got an active project right now we're very publicly advocating that we're repaving our city as the best we can, and I think it sets a strong example if the city does the same for ourselves to maintain that strong roads is very important to us. So I don't know, any thoughts?
This is the parking lot, Joe?
Yeah.
It's not roads.
You're
parking lot
correct.
somewhere.
Yeah, it is a parking lot. You're right. Yeah. Willing to.
Do we need more parking lots?
What condition is it in right now? Recall.
Yes. Do we know what condition we're in?
Maintenance shop, parking lot, condition. Yeah. Okay. I think we had,
Context is helpful.
originally, this was to replace the parking lot over Walnut Creek Golf Course. The money, when it was allocated into this, during this last budget process, and when we got out there and got ready to do the project, we realized that parking lot at Walnut Creek needed more than what this would provide. So we set that project aside for another day, and come back to it, and then apply the money that was for Walnut to resurface the maintenance shop parking lot, which is over by City Park, Rec, adjacent to it there. I think we could put that off.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Allen. Anybody else's thoughts? Okay, sounds like then we're all comfortable reallocating this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, City Council. 2 down to number 50, fire storage building behind Station 6. This project has been completed under budget, and staff identified $389,770 that could be released from that project.
Perfect. Thank you.
Line number 54, replace the J.D. Edwards Enterprise Resource Planning System. The budget for 2026 was $350,000. The staff worked to reduce the scope of the consulting work, and the bids came in lower than anticipated. They've identified $200,000 that could be deferred from this project.
Great. Any questions? Okay, well then, thank you. We'll reallocate that.
All right. Project number 60, South Park Downtown. Our staff identified that this project, the funds of $300,000 related to design of South Park could be deferred and reviewed for 2027.
Councilor Barajas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if this is like, you know, we're moving this to a different year, we're not ready, or, you know, but I don't like moving funds away from just downtown in general. If there's some sort of priority area that we're looking at that includes downtown, build out downtown investment, then this could absolutely just be like shuffled and funneled into there. I personally would not love this to be pulled out of like the downtown phases to like fund a community garden in my neighborhood. Like I even that's like my project or something, you know. So I would advocate, I guess I know it's like it's like a park thing, and so there's a lot of, I don't know, but this is specifically, am I right? This is for the South Park in downtown Westminster?
Correct, Counselor, and this is in partnership with Community Services. John Van is actually leading this in Community Services. So the good news is, through project savings with Aerostat Park and other WERP accounts, we have roughly $360,000 identified to be applied to South Park, in addition to some other CIP projects. So it's not preventing the project, and the intent is to move forward with probably, this summer, a bidding process. So, work probably wouldn't commence to fall or spring, but through other project savings, the project will still move forward. It's just through, and we're still working through some punch list items on Aerostat, like some furniture, sound system, things like that. But with a fair degree of confidence, we've earmarked that project savings to sort of backfill this $300K in essence.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that diligence, because I think that attention to that is important. I guess my caveat still at least remain, I would up for discussion with this body, but if.
I'm fine with it. It sounds like he's got the money anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to kind of put a note, because I think the note on this is deferred to 2027, and I would prefer to not cut this if it's deferred. If it can get done this year with other funds, I'm okay for this allocation, but I would actually like to take this off the list if it's not deferred, so it can get done this year.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I feel the same way, and honestly, I feel like we should be adding more money towards economic development, particularly geared at downtown Westminster, and that should also be a focus for us. I guess it's just, as we look at these short-term, I feel like a lot of the work that we're looking at on this list right now is kind of triage, and we are not looking at long-term, what are we needing to do to plant the seeds and sustain ourselves over time. And I want us to be looking at both.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I don't know how, I sort of thought this is more like the 2026 stuff, but with our 2027 budget, I think we need to have some space for economic development, some serious economic development, because the market's not doing it right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned prior. Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm hearing the majority. Oh, Councilor Zadi.
So can you clarify though? Did you say you have the money? So what is this 300 then?
Correct. Well, I think it's important to remember timing. So at the time of development of the 2026 budget, it was uncertain we had a budget for Aerostat Park. But as projects go, whether it's change orders, unforeseen conditions, it was a realistic budget. But maybe through wise project management, we realized that savings, but because the construction project for Aerostat was midstream, we didn't know that. So kind of, quite frankly, the $300K for this year's budget was sort of a hedge, assuming we weren't going to realize any project savings within downtown. So now that we're through the grand opening event, substantially complete. Like I said, we're still working on a few odds and ends, punch list items, but with a fair degree of confidence, we're going to have greater than that 300,000 in another account that we can apply to South Park. So we have the money, and that's where we're bringing forward this recommendation.
You're taking from other places and investing into them.
Correct, and it's actually, from another.
So this is not money that we need.
So, Councilor, may I suggest the $300,000 is still on the list, and that we change the note to say fund from project savings from Aerostat Park.
Yeah, because right now the script, the notes says defer.
Correct.
And I think that's confusing some counselors that we're not deferring anything. This is still happening. They found it from other places and they're investing.
I wouldn't take a dime out of downtown's WARP account. So I don't care if we save money. Is this coming out of?
It's coming out of the specific project account that was Parks cash in lieu that was applied to Aerostat Park. But a hedge I would like to offer, and that's where the project manager is planning to proceed with bidding out the project in South Park. This is where the old U.S. Bank building is, along the Allen Ditch, the southern, north of 88th, between that and Ascent. We don't know what we don't know with the bidding itself. Are the bids going to be competitive? Are there are other CIPs too to depending on what the bids come in at. So there's still the intent to proceed with the project. I don't think this is some sort of value engineering beyond a reasonable level, but we don't know what we don't know yet because the project hasn't been bid out.
I would just keep the money in there because there are, I drive around that and there's broken curbs and there's other things that I could see $300,000 being used for in the general maintenance of the area that I'd want to see kept in the downtown. So the savings are great and we can utilize them from the Aerostat Park, but if there's $300,000, I'd use it to keep.
Thank you. Let's go around to a quick poll. Let's cut this one so we can move on to the next line. So let me know if you want to keep the dollars in there or if we want to reallocate this. Councilor Zadi?
Keep it because they have the money.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm kind of confused on what the poll is asking.
Keep the dollars in the in the South Park area or reallocate the dollars to the 2022 hour strategic plan?
I guess I would defer. Could I don't want to
We've had enough discussion, Councilor. I think,
I just don't know, what, pass, I guess.
Okay, you can abstain. Councilor Ireland.
Well, it sounds like it's going to have to use it in the South Park area, so, and apparently has the money, so I'm saying yes, we can divert, allocate it.
Okay.
They keep it in the account.
Okay.
So do not defer.
Don't move it.
Don't move it.
Right. I'm also going to say let's keep that there and let's not reallocate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Long one.
What was the poll? Was it 3-3?
We had one abstain and one object, so 4-2.
All right, let's move on to page 4, line number 77, fire station exhaust system replacement. This project is almost completed. It's coming under budget, and the fire department's identified $150,000 that could be reduced from this project account.
Questions?
nice to see you guys have so many things come under budget. So
I agree. Somebody's doing a good job with their projects. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll jump down to line number 81, downtown public art. This project is completed and is coming under budget. That this project could be reduced by $55,000.
On that. I think seeing as the poll we just took was a majority to keep the dollars there, is there any real change from that? Okay, I think we're gonna keep those dollars there, and we're not gonna reallocate them.
Okay. All right, one of those projects on page 5, page 6, line number 113. The sales tax system replacement was a major project. It's completed. It's coming under budget. We can release $45,022 there.
All right, well, thank you. It's under budget. I think we're moving ahead unless I see a question.
The rest are under.
All right.
Yeah.
115 PC replacement outlay under budget, 37,823.
Brilliant.
Computerized workflow management in our attorney's office, 33,714. That's completed and under budget.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Mayor, may I add also, this is a sampling of the projects coming in under budget, but the drive of the leadership team is starting to reflect in these budget outcomes. In other words, they're taking their own projects and driving them to complete under budget. And I just want to do a shout out to the leadership team for doing that, because it does reflect the ethos of no stone unturned. They're putting incredible down pressure on their own line item budgets on the capital side, as well as on their operating, where we don't have as much flexibility. So I just wanted to shout out that it's not by accident that a lot of these projects are coming in under budget.
That's amazing. And I just want to say, for any real project around the city to be completed and have an idea of where it stands in the budget, it takes at least a year, if not usually 2 or 3, right? And so that tells you that long-term, sustained, ongoing pressure is being reflected today. And to your point, major thanks to the directors, major thanks to the staff teams, the project teams. It takes a lot of work to see such a successful budget and see so many successful projects come under the budget. I mean, it's just incredible. Any final thoughts or questions?
I just want to give a shout out to staff. I think this is a reflection of really efficient execution of 2026 budget, right? Last year's budget that we did for this year, this is really efficient execution. And maybe we have not had as much transparency into this process or this level of detail in the past, but seeing it, I hope the residents who are watching can feel good tonight, right? That staff who has a lot of power and a lot of things, they do a lot of things that we never get to see, and they approve contracts, they do a lot of things. And this is, for the first time, to Mayor's point, a light shining and saying, hey, here's all the cuts that we can find to, by the way, reprioritize into what this council's actual priorities are, because the community changes over time. There may be projects on this list that started up 10, 15 years ago, but the community has changed since then. And we need to be responsive to the community. And this is the first council that I've been on that has prioritized what the community actually wants and needs right now. So thank you for staff for doing that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll just say thank you to staff as well. I hope that we can find a level of balance with next year's process, like Andrew Andrews was saying. I'd love for us to be able to have the same level of transparency, but not the scramble that you've gone through. And hopefully this also builds some trust between council and staff, and the community. I think when we question staff and their integrity, that also kind of propels the community to also not trust our organization and the work that we're doing and the really good work that staff is doing. So hopefully this is a good step forward for everybody.
Thank you. Counselor
I
Ireland.
just want to thank you all for, because I'm a driving force, I know, in transparency and numbers, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. This is impressive, and I'm really grateful. So, thank you. With that, I think that we can move on to our next presentation.
No one wants to stay?
Come on, Andy, we got some fun stuff after this.
How did they all fit in that? That was like a
class.
It's like a circus scene with the.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm here for the long haul, Mayor.
I think I've introduced, so we're moving on to our next presentation of possible process options for filling vacancies on City Council.
Thanks, Mayor. Actually, I'll lead the discussion to the extent I can help support City Council. I believe this item is on tonight's agenda at City Council's request. That was a request, I think, from Councilor Ireland. And so tonight we are able to discuss whether City Council has interest in changing the current process for filling vacancies on City Council. I've made copies of some of the relevant authority on the question, and I'll hand them out so that we can have copies. Basically, the Westminster City Charter 5.7 addresses how vacancies in elected offices are filled. And if there is a vacancy on City Council, it is to be filled within 30 days by a majority vote of the remaining members of the council, which with said appointee to hold office for any balance of the unexpired term. Should the vacancy not be filled within 30 days, or if 3 or more vacancies exist simultaneously, the vacancies then get filled at a special election. And as a way of implementing that charter provision, City Council's rules set forth a process at Rules 7.23, which describes how there will be an application form, an interview process of candidates, and then appointments occurring by a roll call vote. And the rules address, and what it might take to get to a majority. So if there's an interest in modifying the current process, tonight is an opportunity for those questions to be asked. So I'm here to support council on that discussion if there's an interest in seeking a modification.
Thank you. Councilor Ireland.
So I presented it as a ballot measure because we would have to change this. And I guess I don't know if you guys recall what it said, but shall the Westminster City Charter be amended to revise the procedure for filling City Council vacancies so that a vacancy resulting from a councilor's resignation or departure before the end of their term shall be filled first by the unelected candidate from the most recent City Council election who received the highest number of votes among unelected candidates and who received at least 2/3 of the total number of votes received by the lowest placed elected councilor in the same election. And if no such qualified and willing candidate is available, the vacancy shall be in descending order to other unelected candidates, meeting the same vote threshold, and only if no qualified and willing candidates from the most recent election are available shall the vacancy be filled by appointment, according to a majority vote of the remaining city council members. And one of my driving forces of this is our state legislature is 2/3 appointed right now. This is not representative of what the people want. So I think it should be by election, The potential benefits are prioritizes voter choice by using results from the most recent city council election to fill vacancies, provides a clear objective process that reflects the will of the electorate, reduces the need for vacancies to be filled by appointment by remaining council members, ensures that only candidates who demonstrate significant voter support are eligible to fill a vacancy, honors the voice and votes of Westminster residents by giving preference to candidates who already receive substantial public support at the ballot box, encourages a city council that better reflects the political diversity of the community rather than allowing a temporary council majority to select replacements aligned primarily with their own views, rewards those who made the effort to go through the arduous election campaign process rather than simple application interview process, creates a fairer and more representative process by allowing voters, not just city council members, to have the strongest influence over who fills a vacant seat, improves public trust and transparency by relying first on measurable election results rather than political preference over or internal relationships, maintains an appointment option only as a backup if no qualified and willing unelected candidates are available.
Thank you, Councilor.
That is the potential benefits, and I've had many people over the years upset with the process that we are currently have. So, and I don't think it reflects the electorate of our city the way we do it either, so.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to start by saying I'm really weary to go to the ballot anytime soon. I think we have a very packed ballot this year and next year. So a ballot measure for any one of these issues or any issue going forward, I think is a uphill battle for success in our city, just given the complexity of the ballots that we're about to have as voters with all the statewide issues that are going to be on the ballot. With that general comment out of the way, one of the things I would say is I love the idea of having the electorate fill vacancies that are created via election. So for example, in this case with our vacancy, when there is an election created vacancy, I like the idea of having voter approval for, or a voter choice in that. But taking someone who is non-representative of the voter's choice, and by that I mean a candidate who did not qualify, it creates a lot of problems. First of all, it's not democratic. Like if I had the choice to pick four, I would not have chosen necessarily the person that got fourth place. So I would support a measure in theory, again, with the caveat that I think this needs a lot of work to go forward and not in this election year, of ranked choice voting. In the idea that, you know, if we have ranked choice voting where we can rank all of the candidates and that the top three finishers were selected and that the fourth place finisher in a ranked choice system could take a election filled vacancy, that is a very democratic way to fill a vacancy and allows voters choice not only in their fourth place choice, but in all choices so they could rank every candidate. But I think that creates a lot of problems when you get halfway through someone's term, a look back period of the way, 2 years ago, because our terms are 4 years. I think the complexity of that creates a lot of challenges for our community, especially as a community in change, of looking back 2 years, to what an election happened and choosing someone to call them up from that election. I would say that in a non-election driven vacancy, it's probably best and most efficient in the system we have where you get to appoint and then immediately run for re-election in the next election so that there is someone who can fill that role in an efficient and effective way, and yet they still have to stand for election immediately afterwards. But in a ballot measure that would create ranked choice voting, generally, I support, but specifically for election-driven vacancies, if that were ever to happen, I would support, but not just a fourth place finisher.
Thank you. Councilor Hott.
I just want to say I completely agree with everything that Councilor Johnson just said.
Thank you. Councilor Azadi.
And to add to that, the way it works today, right? If in a pick 3 election, if a voter selects 4, that ballot is thrown out because it's legally capped at 3. They throw out the ballot, the whole thing. Meaning that the system never actually collects a fourth place preference. So using a fourth place process as was proposed is mathematically unsound. And I totally agree with Councilor Johnson's suggestion of if this was retooled to maybe be a ranked choice thing next year, not this year, maybe in 2 years, that's a better way of going about it.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I agree. And I guess the only thing I would say is I know some communities have some level of, if it's within a certain amount of time from an election, you either just don't appoint, you just go straight to the election and fill it then. So some clarity around that. And then I do like the idea of doing the ranked choice, but only if, either it's just if there's a council vacancy that's caused by the election, or if it's within a certain amount of time from the election. But I don't know, like, if we just go straight to ranked choice system, then that maybe gives us a little flexibility. If somebody were to, if we have it's 30 days or 60 days or 90 days from an election, that's legit enough. And then we just use that number 4 person. So it's slightly a modification, but overall, I like that.
Other thoughts, Councilor? Okay, well then I'll just say, Councilor Ireland, I really appreciate how much work you put into that. That was very thorough, and it highlights some of the concerns that you have about council appointments, which I think are valid. I think the question here tonight is, do we want to put our energy into this question? Because to your point, it would be a ballot measure. And once we determined whether or not we wanted to pursue a ballot measure, then we could follow the intricacies of how we wanted to pursue that. If we wanted to take Councilor Johnson's suggestions or anyone else's, Mayor Pro Tem's, and decide how we wanted to do that. So I think the first question is, are we going to pursue this year? So I'm just going to go around and do a quick poll, and we'll move to the next item. Okay, Councilor Hott. No.
Given the nature of my position on this council, I'm going to abstain.
Oh, that's fair. Thank you.
I'm going to make you answer one today, man.
I'm going to pass on all of them.
Yes.
Yes.
That's integrity right there.
That is integrity, yes.
I'd be open to talking about next year, if that would be.
Yeah, I'd caveat that and say, if we were going to run a ballot measure, I think a 2027 measure in which people running for re-election on this council or otherwise are already engaging with voters and can engage in that conversation, I think we have a greater chance of being successful in that measure. I think the ballot's more clear, so the voters can have a higher level of information in their choice because there's not as many statewide and other measures that would be on the ballot. I would be very interested in exploring a ranked choice measure for 27, but given the workload we have this year, I'll say pass for this year.
Thank you. And you said?
Next year.
Okay.
If everyone's cool with that.
Right. I'm going to say no for this year. I am also happy to revisit this, so we can put it on a future agenda. Thank you, Councilor, for all your work.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for hearing me out.
Absolutely. Okay. And then City Attorney, would you please read the title of our executive session into the record?
Oh, we have a
First,
Award system.
we do have
I thought we did. Mine doesn't highlight that. Sorry.
4C.
Two more.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No,
We're
it's
trying to move us through.
It's my highlighting system. It didn't work for me tonight. Okay, so next presentation, we're talking about consideration of adding a ward system.
2 pages for each one. If you'll take 2 pages, there's enough for each. Abby and Larry, everybody's got
It's funny because I have it
set up there. So
I still didn't, because I just.
good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, Assistant City Manager Chris Lindsay.
trying to quickly.
I think you still got. I got you, Jody. There should be 2 sheets, one with a slide and one with the text on it.
Okay, let's do it that way. That goes with those.
I did it right, so.
You did it right.
I think the mayor put what I was doing. Yeah, you have an extra one.
Okay.
All right. Good evening again, everyone. Happy to talk to you this evening about the potential of a wards or districts ballot question. This has come up through a city council placed agenda item. I'm going to here this evening with our city clerk, Abby Fitch, Matt Munch of our attorney's office, and Dave Frankel, to take any direction you might wish to provide city staff. The typewritten sheet, I've provided the last 3 ballot measures on wards or districts and the results there. And then pursuant to the feedback from Councillor Ireland, we went back and pulled up the recommendations from the Wards Advisory Committee that was in July of 2024, and that's the slide that's in front of you as well. So you can compare what's on the slide to what was asked in 2024 as the ballot question. I'm happy to answer any questions and certainly receive any feedback from City Council this evening.
Thank you so much. Thoughts and questions? Councillor Ireland.
So my recommendation this time was number 2, because the last time we put it on the ballot, it wasn't quite clear because we wanted to do another ballot measure to add hybrid the second time, because there was some, I know Councilor Namilla, you were concerned there was no hybrid, and we were going to bring it, you wouldn't approve it unless we put hybrid on the next ballot. So this is why I'm just combining them, so we don't have to have that confusion. I think that was confusing to people, and I don't think we supported it that much like we did 3H, so.
Agreed. Thank you.
Can I,
Yes.
so are we talking right now?
Yes, go ahead.
Am I just not doing the math right on number 2?
No, you're correct. It actually should say 2.
Yeah. I too was like,
I really
Actually,
we,
that one should say 2. This is straight from the slide deck.
Actually, that is not why, I'm sorry, I didn't read it close enough. Mine was 4 wards, 1 counselor from each ward, and then 2 at large.
2 at large.
So every time you have an election, you have 2 being elected in the wards and 1 at large.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is not quite what and I don't even know if we discussed mine actually at that thing, but it just makes more sense for election sakes too, that you have 2 wards and 1 at large each time.
And is that language-wise, when you say hybrid, or when you mentioned hybrid, Mayor Pro Tem?
Hybrid means there's some at large.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not quite what I
Well, I mean, if it's 2,
was
then it is
asking
right.
for, right?
If,
It's
like,
4
this-
wards, 1 each,
Okay.
2 each, no, 1 each,
Yeah.
1 each, and then 2 at large, and then the mayor. So 1 from each ward, 2 at large, and then the mayor. And then I did write out a ballot question a ballot measures.
yeah,
for
let's
it.
hear it.
Establish a hybrid city council consisting of 4 council members elected by ward, 2 council members elected at large, and a mayor elected at large. Maintain the total number of council members as 7, including the mayor, with 4-year terms. Require that the city be divided into 4 wards of approximately equal population, with ward boundaries to be reviewed and revised as necessary following each federal census to maintain substantial population equality. Provide for staggered terms such that at the first regular municipal election following adoption of the measure, 2 ward council seats and 1 at-large council seat shall be elected. And at the next regular municipal election held 2 years thereafter, the remaining 2 ward council seats, the remaining 1 at-large council seat, and the office of the mayor shall be elected, and thereafter continuing the staggering election of approximately 1.5 of the council every 2 years.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
That was great legal terminology. And I like the idea of 4 wards with 2 at large and a mayor. I think of a similar answer, which is I think this is a tough ballot year to be successful, but my maybe poll to council would be, since we're on the 2027 budget conversation, to see if it's possible to fold into a Q1 2027 scientific poll, like paid for that like 3H by a polling company, to see if this would be successful, because it's been handedly rejected by voters a couple of times. I personally deeply understand the racial history of at-large elections and how wards better represent disparate populations within our city. I think it makes sense for elections, but I don't want to get ahead of voters with something that they have continuously told us they don't want. And so, maybe we could put a polling council to say, explore, bring back a cost analysis or an option of a 2027 budget item for what it would cost us to poll the voters, like we did with 3H, to see if it's feasible, and then maybe put this on a potential future ballot. And while we're at it, maybe we can get the polling company to talk about ranked choice voting too.
Yeah.
Councilor Ireland?
I would just like to know how much it is to put it on a ballot versus have a poll, because your election is the poll. I mean, you're getting the results.
Yeah, I mean,
I would.
Hold on real quick. Let's see. I just wondered if there was any quick answers to that, but it looks like perhaps.
The cost of an election is really complicated. It's divided among all the participating cities, how many total questions there are, how many questions you submit. The elections aren't inexpensive, I would say. They usually run us between $70,000 and $90,000.
Okay.
Okay.
That's part of it, right?
What about a poll? Do you remember what a poll costs?
I don't remember what yeah.
$50,000, $60,000.
That'd be an addition if we decided to put it on the ballot, right?
Right.
If we run.
Okay. Councilor Johnson.
My thought to Councilor Ireland, to your point is, if we believe in this as a council, I wouldn't want to just throw it on the ballot. I'd actually, like we did with 3H, want to invest our time and potential city resources in educating people about their choices, right? Not electioneering, but educating voters about their potential choices on the ballot in a way that I think voters can make more informed decisions. And so I think the investment is not just our cost of the election itself, but a potential investment of the cost of city council's time educating voters and city staff time educating voters. And I want it to be successful, and I want to invest in its success, which is why I think a poll actually might save us some money if it shows that it's not going to be successful even with education.
Well, we know that it wasn't successful 3 times the way it was. I'm just saying.
Right.
So.
Councilor Barajas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I would love to learn, because I think this is a great idea, though I say that as the city says it's not, right? The resident says it's not. So I would either want to know, even though we think it's a good idea, the residents don't, and it's a done deal, or if information from this polling can allow us to shape this in a way that would be successful so that we can hit kind of a lot of the stuff that you had mentioned, that Councilor Johnson has mentioned, that this body has kind of wants to attend to. So I guess my feedback, to staff is I'm interested in trying to figure out if this can go forward or should this go forward, and by doing it in a way that we can gather maybe data and insight. And obviously, if you have any feedback from the storied history, is this exactly the same conversation that we've been having every single year?
It's been a different ballot measure every time, different wording, different plan.
Yeah.
Councilor Zadi.
Yeah, thank you. To what everyone has said, right? So wards, I've been a really loud voice, one of many, if not the biggest, loudest voice for years for getting wards. And we had this wards advisory council, and we've had so many conversations on this. We had so many ballot questions on this. To everything Councilor Johnson said, right, there are racial disparities, but there are also socioeconomic. There's also democratic, where not having a ward system reduces the number of people who run for office because it's very expensive to run at large. There's all of these other things, right? So I get it. And it's similar to when candidates want to run for office just to make a statement versus running for office to actually try to win. I try to tell them, don't just make a statement with your run, try to actually win. So I'm torn on this because I'm obviously a big proponent of wards. We are the largest, if not one of the largest cities in the state that still has an at-large system. However, if we do this, we will have to replicate 3H. What we did with 3H, I don't know if you guys remember all the wars and fights to make sure. That took a lot of us, literally, physically. So many of us were running for re-election. That helped. but also we had to get staff and we had to like prioritize the funds from the city to actually do the education piece. That was the second piece. Also, there was our firefighters, there's a whole union, right, that actually went out there with all of us distributing flyers. That took a lot of effort. And that was because 3H we tried the year before and it didn't work. And the reason why we said that it didn't work is because we didn't have the education. The communications was really what was the piece, right? How do we make people more aware of why we need this? So I'm in, it feels like it's going to be vibes again, and and that's cool to make a statement. But if we really want to win this, take Mayor McNally, she was, a fierce warrior for 3H. Yeah. That it takes a lot of loud voices, people with big followings and coalitions to actually get something like this that has failed multiple times to actually make this happen. So my hesitation is ballot fatigue. There is such a thing, and if we keep asking the voters the same question, then why would they trust us? Because we're basically saying, we don't believe you. Mm-hmm. How about now? We don't believe you. How about now? We just keep asking the same thing. I'm in, but I'm just gonna hesitate. I hedge it with it's a vibes thing because I don't see what the path to victory is unless we do all these things I mentioned.
Thank you. So I'll echo everything Councilor Azadi said. Yes, and so thank you. I'm a strong proponent for wards. I love your suggested language, Councilor Ireland. And to push back a little bit on Councilor Johnson and Councilor Barajas' request for information here, my position is that this is the information. This is very recent. This is our history. I want wards, and I think it's absolutely too soon to try again. I think, to everyone's point, they're more equitable, they're more affordable, they're the right thing to do. The city has told us no, not by a slim margin. Yeah. It was overwhelmingly done. And I do think when the time is right, to Councilor Azadi's point, we will have to form a very large coalition. We will have to bring in other organizations that believe in this and goal and why it's important and understand why it's important. They will have to walk with us. And there's going to have to be a very large education campaign. I think it's far too soon. Honestly, I think the soonest I could even look at it, maybe 2029, I'm thinking not the next year, not the next couple years because of the ballot fatigue on this. I think that we need to wait and give people time and then revisit it when it feels right, when we think that things have changed. Because we have to have a valid reason to approach the question. If we're saying that we're representing residents' will on this, we have to hear that some of that will has changed. So
I totally agree, and to the point earlier, the community changes constantly, right? So in 2029, there will be a lot of new people, a lot of different mindsets. People change too. People's views change, their priorities change. We need to give it some time to breathe.
Yes, Councilor Barajas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for that perspective. I mean, I agree. I guess the information I want to know is why. In 2023, they said yes, give us a ballot question. And granted, that's different, but then in 2024, they said no to the ballot question. And so I just want to know, the question wasn't formed right, or is it the wards? And so that's really, I want to know, why is the data that I really would like to know. And that comes from a lot of conversation. And if this were to, whenever this goes and is pushed forward, I would kind of try to gather that information kind of, door to door sort of thing. But, yes, we know no. We know the no, but I'm hearing a few different reasons, but I haven't heard tonight, they didn't like the this,
Councilor Johnson.
Yeah, I think to Councilor Barajas' point, the value in a poll is really to give us data on where there are failure points and where there are education points. And looking at this from someone who has done election and polling professionally, it is a really confusing data set. I wouldn't come away knowing what I know about the city and looking at this information with any understanding of what voters are actually thinking, even confident enough to say they don't want wards, because at one point they did vote for a commission for wards, right? There's off-cycle elections, non-cycle election differentiations. In this past election in Westminster, we had more people vote than in the history of our municipal elections. And so I think a lot of our electorate is changing, and I think a poll is a sign of respect to our voters, but also really valuable data for our city of, you know, and like I kind of quipped at the end, but could be valuable, is there are other key city initiatives like ranked choice voting. I think you can fold that in a cost-sensitive way. So I would like to poll right now to see if we can try to get a cost proposal for the 27 budget. I don't think, 50,000 is not a whole lot to explore some of these referred measures. I mean, we've, as a body, have even talked about referred measures related to taxes and vacant properties and things like that. And I think exploring a line gives us some flexibility to do that. But specifically to this measure, I think there's still a lot of really untapped, golden data here that can be useful for the future of our city's elections.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Johnson that a poll would be helpful. I feel like it's not only an opportunity to find out where the gaps are, but it also is an opportunity to educate people as you go through with the questions. So that, to me, because especially like ranked choice, I think didn't the state, there's a state proposal.
There's a state.
Right.
Well, jungle primaries, a little different.
It was a little confusing, I'll say that, but I can imagine this might be confusing for people too. I'd be open to at least doing the polling next year and gauge whether or not we think it's something that would be worthwhile doing in the 27 election. All right, sorry, losing what year it is. And I listen to the experts that know what's happening with, how to run the elections and everything. So, I think, very much heated with respect to how much we would have to work, either if it's in 27 or 29.
Thank you. All right, we're going to do a quick round poll around whether we want to pursue this today, because that's what is on the agenda. And then I'll go ahead. It sounds like there's a request for a poll on whether we want to put this a study up for early next year. So first poll, are we looking into that this year? No. Actually, out loud for the board. Sorry, for our audiences. No. Thank you.
I'm fine with it being put off too.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor.
Thanks for your input.
No, not this year.
No. Okay, so we'll put this at rest, and then we'll do a quick poll as to whether we believe we're ready to do a poll at the beginning of 2027 cycle. Yes, Councilor.
Quick question. Would you mind, Councilor, if we amend that motion or that poll to also include, so basically to be about ranked choice as the priority, but also let's leave placeholders as to what other things we can throw in, because there are some things that could come up next year that we can squeeze in, but it doesn't have to be about wards and ranked choice, but ranked choice plus one or two other things.
Yeah, Mayor, I can be really specific with the ask, which would be for staff to come back with a potential cost that we could build into the proposal to us for the potential cost to do a scientific poll in Q1 of next year for potential ballot questions. And we can decide the number of questions and which ones later. And we can also, if it comes back and Chris tells us it's going to be $1 million, we can reject it. So I would just want staff to come back and say, if you wanted to put this in the 2027 budget, here's how much roughly it would be, and then we can approve that and our potential questions at a future date. But just to have staff do the work to get us to a point where we potentially do that poll in Q1 of 27.
Okay, is that clear enough for folks? Do we need any further? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to know if I can include my two ballot measures as part of the poll. That's the only way I'll agree to it.
I don't think that we can.
I'm not into ranked voting, I'll tell you that right now. So.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think we can approve ballot language because that would be up to our staff.
Not ballot language, but question if this hybrid model was.
But we can include wards.
Yeah,
right,
the
if we vote
boards.
on that, yeah.
And do you approve of the way that our current council is appointed?
Right, okay. We can include that in the discussion for later next year when we hold it. Okay,
Yes, of course.
yes. Okay, I think I'm the only no on this one. I'm a no, but it sounds like I'm clearly outvoted. So we will do a poll early next year. I just think it's absolutely too soon. And I think that Councilor Johnson, you're right, that we're too crowded. I think we should put this off for a couple years and let it breathe. We've been through a lot and voters have been asked for a lot. But so I'm a no, but.
But we didn't say yes to the.
No, we just
it wasn't
said,
about words.
yeah, we just
Okay.
said yes to a, asking about how much a poll would cost to possibly do a poll. A study. Okay, that brings us to item 4D, a verbal request for direction on Jefferson County's letter regarding CDBG funds and Jefferson County's Urban County Program.
I'm like getting close.
Thank you, Mayor. Community Services Director Lindsay Kimball has offered to lead this discussion.
Hello, thank you. Lindsay Kimball, Community Services Director. Wanted to give you a quick overview of the request that came recently from Jefferson County's inquiry related to the periodic urban county requalification cycle. This is a perfunctory request we get periodically, which HUD requires Jefferson County to ask every municipality within the county if they would like to participate. We have always historically declined the offer, and we would send that perfunctorily again. Seeing as, we have several interests on council related to this, we wanted to be very transparent about why we say no, what it is, what the heck are they asking us, kind of thing. So basically, we belong to a consortium with Adams County, which doesn't require us to relinquish the authority over our CDBG formulaic allocation. So the short answer why we don't choose to go with Jefferson County, and there's no hard feelings because it's been happening for a while, is that this city has always chosen to control their own destiny with regard to the CDBG funds and not relinquish that authority to the county, to Jeffco. So that's the very brief answer about why staff highly recommends that we continue to do that. But in addition, you all are familiar with the success that we've had, thanks to Vivi and her leadership of the CDBG program and staff that work on that program. We've done great things like the Emergency and Essential Home Repair Program. We've done the LIFT program, which provides major capital improvements to sustain and retain our affordable housing stock of multifamily, Paint-a-thon, and many other great projects and investments in our community that this board has directed and retained the authority to do. So just wanted to keep it as brief as possible, but we are happy to answer any questions that you have about that process.
I'd like to ask, just so council's a little bit more context, because I'm familiar with this, and I don't know that I'd be fully clear. If you could expand on if we had said yes, what that would mean, and that then they would rely on the county doling out those funds versus us having the entirety of our power by using it directly.
Yes, Mayor, yes, that's an excellent point. Thank you. That is true. If we chose to become part of this urban consortium with Jefferson County, they would directly receive our CDBG allocation. We would no longer receive a direct allocation from the federal government, and they would have the authority to allocate that as they see fit, which could mean potentially we are not funded for programs that we have worked on and established, such as the LIFT and the Emergency and Essential Home Repair.
Thank you so much. And so is there a request from us this evening, which is direction, or?
Yes, Mayor. We would like your consent to respond and say to Jefferson County, thank you very much for asking, but we are going to keep our current relationship with Adams County.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts, or Councilor Barajas?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Vivi for putting on the block grant presentation a couple weeks ago. I think it was super helpful in knowing exactly the kind of programs that you're talking about, particularly allowing Westminster to continue to address its housing stock for affordable housing stock, resets and using this program. So I just want to appreciate the education. So yeah, I'm a yes, no, yes.
Thank you so much.
Is that yes, no, yes?
Yes, I'm saying no.
Yes. All right. Other thoughts, questions? Okay. All right. Are we all a yay for staff's recommendation?
Yes.
I think we're agreed. Thank you so much for bringing it to us. Thank you for the transparency and why we're doing it.
Thank you.
All right. Now I believe we move on to exec session. City Attorney, would you please read the title of the exec session into the record, and then we'll poll City Council to go into the session.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the executive session that's on tonight's agenda is to discuss strategy and progress on a proposed economic development agreement involving a grocery prospect and provide instructions to the city's negotiators pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 246402 4E1 and Westminster Municipal Code 1113 C 4 and 7.
All right, we'll do a quick poll. Councilor Rosati?
Yes.
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 And yes. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, the time is 9:33, 4, and this meeting is adjourned.